All right. Greetings, everyone. Willfully, I am live. I think I am. I think I see some people here. So I think I'm live. I think you're here. And willfully, you're able to hear me. All right. So while we're figuring all that good stuff out, let me peace, shalom, shalom, sham the joy, shalom to you. Uh, Loud and clear. Okay, beautiful. Give thanks. Give thanks. All right. Let me just get myself a little bit more regular. Hey Cassie Duran. Oh, you early today. Normally Cassie comes in about 40 minutes in. Peace, Sacred Step, top tier speakers. Peace, Brother Antonio. I think I greeted you earlier. Eritov, Sister Arlene, Sister Kashia, Sister Munira, Baptiste. Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad to have you all in here. You know what I mean? Of course, we're going to be dealing with Genesis, the third chapter, right? So, just to carry on with some of what we've been rocking with. Just give me a second. Just sharing the video. I'm sharing it. Not that I don't trust that you'll also share it, but I know sometimes in the heat of all the teaching and stuff, we forget. So I'm just going to do it now, just in case. I took time to myself today. Oh, good. That's important in our line of work, Cassie, because people will need you to death. But I need, like Bob. What's the matter with Bob? I need. And you got to sometimes say, listen, I need too. And probably whatever's going on with you, it could wait. So yeah, that's important to be able to pull away sometimes, even if it's not for a whole day, but even if it's for 45 minutes and just humanize and, get back to what you are. Sometimes we lose the sound of our own voice, because we're being so many different things to so many people to help them through their journey. It's very difficult to come back to our own downbeat at times. Peace, Kwanda, Akuya, Brother Haru. Peace, Yahuda, Congo, Yisrael. Yeah. Peace, I am Antoine. Okay. Well, I'm going to go with Yahuda. Nothing's wrong with the name Antoine, but I like Yahuda. Peace, nephew. What's happening now? Yeah, precious. All right, cool. Let me pull up my reference before we get rocking. Not to say that it hasn't been interesting, anything like that, but peace, Brother Isaiah. I normally don't get to greet everybody because truthfully, when we start, I just kind of go right in, which is, I know it's a little, inhospitable of me. Peace, Sister Naya. Yeah, so yeah, I'm just gonna say what's up, but I'm about done with these niceties, so I can't really keep it up for that long, to be honest with you. Some people are better at it than I am. Hey girl, how you doing? All right, how's the children? You get that operation yet? And all that. You get about a good 30. I went strong for about a good 45 seconds. What time is it? 3 minutes. Come on. And then after 3 minutes, I get nasty. So you don't really want niceties from me after that, because then I start, insulting people. So yeah, my quota has been reached for greetings. So I'll maybe at the end I'll come back. But at least y'all got a solid 3 minutes. I'm a 3-minute brother when it comes to niceties. All right. So we left off on Genesis 2, right? And where we had the thought creation of heavens and the earth, or the upper and the lower, or Shemayim and the earth, and then we also had the thought creation of Adam, male and female. They created them. And important to keep in mind, and just because I'm recapping doesn't mean I'm not going to say something new. So let me just warn you. They just said, dang, I missed the cutoff. Yeah, you should have got here on time. That's your problem now. Now, see, I mean, the nastiness is good. I told you I got 3 minutes. That's why I got it. After the 3 minutes, and I just, notice I don't even really look into the lens after 3 minutes. But, yeah, everyone. So, yeah, just because I'm recapping doesn't mean I'm not going to hit you with a new gem or anything like that. So just, when I'm recapping, don't think like, all right, I heard this part already. A lot of times, like when I'm teaching, I'll stick to a specific theme. The themes are very important because there's a lot of information. When you're reading something as sacred as scripture, it's very difficult to imagine how much thought goes into what you're actually reading. I know a lot of times when I break things down mathematically, that's when people get to really see like, wow, that's crazy. Like where things are placed, even down to the page numbers in the book, like when you go to, or I should say the placement, you go to Psalm 118, right? And then you realize like, yo, that's the middle of the book. And then once you realize that's the halfway point of the book, you can correlate it with really the second day of creation, which is another like second half, if you will, right? You start seeing little things. You're probably going to, please do it afterwards, please, but you're probably going to peep it after I just said it, and you're going to realize, oh my goodness, they're related, right? That's not by accident, This is why when people oftentimes say, oh man, they enslaved us with that book. They didn't enslave us. I mean, you can't enslave somebody with something that you don't allow them to read. So that argument never really made sense, right? But also, if you're looking at you have to look at the history of a people. And once you do that, one of the things that you're going to realize is that group of people didn't have that many genius minds to come up with a theology this deep, and this intense. They just didn't have those sort of thinkers. Obviously, or I'd say absolutely, some of the ancient philosophers were great at questioning, but a lot of what they questioned and a lot of what they explored was super late. That's one of the challenges you get, like even at the collegiate level. If you take a psychology class, or you take a sociology class, you take a philosophy class, most of them, they will only take you back to ancient Greece, as if that is the beginning of, just because you may call someone the father of this, it doesn't mean that they actually are that, especially when there are much more advanced civilizations that existed before that particular one, and I'm not even talking about the civilizations from the continent of Akibalan, but I mean, you go to the Far East, you go to ancient China, you have philosophers and psychologists and psychiatrists that existed long before, Aristotle and Socrates and Pythagoras and things like that. You start to realize that not only were they studying other people's information, but a lot of their work was like questioning God, right? So if they worshipped, which they did, Imhotep as a deity, a lot of the work that we know as modern philosophy is not necessarily expanding on and furthering the work of Imhotep, but it's like questioning your parent. Why do I have to do it this way? Why is it that way? Why does it measure that? So a lot of times when you do go to study things, that's a perspective you get it at. And that's why even in modern times, the concept of a God, quote unquote, has become almost a joke. I mean, down to cartoons and stuff like that. They joke about it, and a lot of that is because of why didn't I get that? What do I get? I remember as a child, like listening to love songs, right? And I didn't totally get it. I used to listen to them because I liked maybe certain songs I thought were just like dope, or like I wasn't really a child when this came out, but as a younger person, Love on a Two-Way Street, right? When I was young, I thought that was the deepest child, the mind of a young person. I thought that was the deepest lyric ever. I found love on a two-way street and lost it on a one-way highway. Woo! I thought that was like the deepest poetry anybody would ever write. But I didn't really make an integrative connection with those concepts because I hadn't loved and lost at that level, right? So I mean, I remember listening to songs and like, well, when's my song gonna come out? When's it gonna be something for me? Everybody else is feeling this and feeling that and jamming to that and this and that. What about me? What do I get? Right? And for a large part, some of these philosophers that you study or you're taught are supposed to lord over these concepts. That's really what their beef was. If you really listen to their skepticism and their arguments, you listen to Rene Descartes, the French philosopher, and really questioning existence, and trying to utilize the concept of rational thought as a basis for existence. That's crazy, right? Because even the concept, I think, therefore I am, right? That makes no sense, especially if you understand. We're going back to Genesis now. Why was it not good for man to be alone? Why did there have to be a Eve archetype, or Hawa, which was her name, a Hawa archetype, to go along with the man? Because the man represented cognitive thought. Adam was the perfected thought. Adam was a perfect thought. And the garden represented a perfect mind. Okay? So you have thought and you have a perfected mind, but you have no reason to manifest. So it's not into the sensuism or the feelings of Hawa or Eve that come along that now there's something to couple along with thought, right? So the thought being the masculine principle and the feeling or the intuition, let's just say the feeling and the emotion, because the intuition was really the serpent, but the feeling and the emotion now being the female or being the woman, you see? So that concept there, now when you put those together, now it's good. Because it's not good for man to be alone, right? So then what would be the inverse of that? It's bad for man to be alone. Why is it bad for man to be alone? Because at that point, then man is only thought. And man does not have any reason to manifest a thought until there is feeling associated with it, or what we consider to be a psychological zeal, right? So we can know a lot of things. You might be a person who maybe suffers from depression, and you have the potential to manifest because maybe you have a lot of information, you have a lot of knowledge, but you just don't feel like it. You don't feel like doing this, feel like doing it. You know these things, but you're not excited about it anymore. You're not excited about what you know because that feminine principle is missing. Now, of course, when Adam was created, male and female, he created them. So it's not to say that women don't think or that men don't feel. We all go down a particular line with a certain concentration, a certain frequency, and a greater preponderance of said frequency, right? So there's your concept there, right? There's that coupling of things in a sense. So when we're coming out of chapter 2, from once we once had segregation, now we have conjoining. All right. So, matter of fact, what I'll do is I'll read just a little of chapter 2 to lead us in properly to chapter 3. Right. And of course, we went over I said I'll do a whole breakdown of the gardens at some point. I mean, I'm sorry, not the gardens, the rivers. Because the rivers become much more important when you start to learn about Avram, or as some of you know, Abram or Abraham, and you start getting talks about your seed. Your seed will have this, your seed will have that, right? That's actually related to the rivers, because remember, if you understand the Garden of Eden to be a perfected mind, right? With pure divine thoughts. That's right. Everything was about seed, and after this seed, and this seed of its kind, of its kind, of its kind, right? What you have there, and we'll get into that a little bit, is how a perfected mind situates itself when it's receiving the direct seed from the Elohim. When it's receiving divine seed, these are the things that are accessible. So when you hear talks about, Euphrates and Ethiopia and these all these different areas, these are, like we say in 120, the best part, right? So one of the things, it's important to understand when it's speaking about these lands, they're speaking about what your seed will have. Now, the lands don't look at them from a physical perspective. Like, we should all move to Ethiopia. We should all move here. We should all move there. It's not that. It's what those places represent as being the greatest or the highest potential of what's gathered up through the seed. Well, don't worry. I'm not going to leave you just with that, but that's a little bit. So we're going to get into that. So as it says, and the Lord God took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. As I mentioned before, to dress it and to keep it, it's a responsibility. But in order to dress it and keep it, you have to be aware of what its intention is, right? And that's when it says, and the Lord, and I should say, instead of Lord God, and Yahweh Elohim said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make him and help me for him. Make, right? Not create. Because the help meet was already created inside of Adam. Eve was already there. Hawa was already there, right? And out of the ground, the Lord or Yahweh Elohim formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof, meaning that was the description thereof. That was the purpose thereof of what it was called. And Yahweh Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam. We know this part. Deep sleep was a subconscious. So the woman comes from the mystery of the man, or, oftentimes you'll find when you have a man that has a lot of Mars or Ogun energy, they are not maybe as comfortable with feelings, right? It doesn't mean that the feelings are not there, but the feelings are deep down, buried. Again, Eve coming forth is those feelings coming out of the subconscious, or those energy in motion, emotion, energy, electricity. What is electricity? Electricity is fire. What is fire? The man. Fire is also light. That's the man, right? But the man and the fire is just sitting there, or the fire in the sky, which is what? Shemayim, heaven. Heaven does nothing until it comes in contact with what? Motion. Well, what's in motion? The earth. What is the earth? The woman, right? So when you have fire coming in contact with the earth, now you have emotion, or electricity in motion, or energy in motion, right? So, and Adam said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man, right? She's my clone, but more specifically, she wasn't taken out of my consciousness. She was taken out of my subconsciousness, right? So, sometimes I can tell you in a relationship, some men, you may relate to this. I don't know. I've been in relationships before with women who were my soulmates, right? And one of the reasons I knew is because they did all the wrong things that I wanted to do. Some of you men may understand this. Some of you women may. I don't know. I've never, obviously, in this lifetime, I have not experienced from that perspective. But I remember being with women who, things would happen and they would just lie just like this. Quick to lie, right? Don't really need to lie, but it's just right there on the tip of the tongue, or always just doing something a little foul or whatever. And I would kind of be like, these are all the things that I'm thinking to do, but I know not to do, so I don't do it. However, you're doing exactly what I would do if I had no filters. Like, these are my thoughts, right? Because she represented the subconscious, that part of me that was repressed down in there, that was being ruled over by my heaven, or being ruled over by my higher conscious, to avoid me from disconnecting from my best self, right? Those relationships never last, by the way, because you end up, it's just too intense. It's too intense having to look at yourself like that. And what happens, you can't run from them, because if you have children, it ends up manifesting right there, and you have to just deal with it anyway. Either way, you're going to deal with your dark side, as Sister Deidre said, the dark side. Exactly. You're going to deal with it, no matter what. But it's very difficult to deal with it inside of a relationship where there's this intimacy at that level, where at the same time you're trying to be someone's conscious. It just doesn't work. It barely works with the children, but you get to witness it. So like we said, we get all the rivers, we get all the lands, which are very important. When we do the river breakdown, we'll do the land breakdown. And Yahweh Elohim commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, meaning every thought that's here, go ahead, knock yourself out. Why? Because this is a perfected mind. And inside of this perfected mind that I've created here, it's all good. Everything's good. It's like being at a family reunion and nobody's a pedophile or a con person. You could just let the children run free. Go on, have fun. But your Uncle Blue, stay away from him. Right? And that's, of course, that's the one you make a beeline for, right? So that's what we're told about the tree. So now that's just, some of the review on 2. And, therefore man shall cleave his father and his mother, and shall cleave, unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife. She's now referred to as his wife, or as we say, Isha. They were both bare, they were naked, but they were not afraid. Now, the pictograph of that particular word in the Hebrew is an eye and like a picture of a person or of a man, right? So naked means see the man, right? That's important. So naked doesn't just mean your junk is out. Naked means that I see you. It's kind of like Avatar. I'm able to see you. You're able to see me. And even with that, I'm not ashamed, right? So it's in the same instance. There were times, again, sometimes even with your children, right? There are your relatives. It doesn't just have to be your children. Sometimes they know things about you no one else knows, or things about them no one else knows. And there could be a shame, right? Because you see the man, or you see the person, or the person sees you. So there could be a shame, but when you're in a space of love and wisdom, there is no shame. It's, yeah, you know me, you know me, you know what it is, right? So that's the concept and the science of that nakedness being present there. It means to be uncovered, but uncovered in the sense of what's being seen, as far as seeing the actual person in front of you, not necessarily, like I said, just, being naked. And the reason I'm making that distinction is because I have heard people in the past, especially people in the Seshe community, or what you may call Orisha or Ifa, speak about not being naked in front of your shrine. And that's just silly. Like, you could be naked in front of your shrine. In fact, it's preferable to be naked in front of your shrine. The idea that nakedness is a sin or nakedness, it comes from Catholicism in terms of the nakedness that's here, but that's not what is being spoken about. We'll get into that just in a little bit, because obviously the nakedness is going to come back up again, right? If for those of you who have read the story, right, you know that comes back up again. So that was the end of 2, right? That's our little recap. Now let's get into 3. And again, like I said, just because I recap doesn't mean I'm not going to give you something extra, right? So we didn't talk about that stuff last time. One of the things that people have told me in the past is, like, sometimes when we review or I'm asking questions and I'll say, well, this chapter say this, that, and that. And I'll say, like, well, you never spoke about that before. You know how much stuff you could speak about? Like, you can't cover everything. You can't cover everything. Let's just leave it right there. You can't cover everything. As you grow and as you develop, more will come. But that microwave mentality, I've read this once and I got it. It's pretty sad. There's a lot, and that's one of the reasons why I'm covering this. It's not because I'm trying to convert you to anything as far as like being a Christian or something. I'm not a Christian. Many of you know that. But one of the challenges or issues that I have seen often is that people who will leave a certain experience, and maybe because they are not, they've never explored higher education, or maybe didn't perform as well in school as they would have liked to, they have never developed any sort of study habits, right? So I can tell you, like, a lot of times I've spoken to people who maybe used to go to church, for instance, and they'll say, yeah, I stopped going to church because I had questions that the preacher couldn't answer. That's not a good reason to stop going to church. I'm not, and I don't want you to go to church, just to be clear, unless you really need to be in church. So this is, I'm not advocating church. I would prefer people not go to church, right? Again, I will remind you that the original term was the ecclesiasticus. That was the term that was used for the gathering of the saints. And church came later, and church comes from the word circus, right? So I don't want you to go to the circus, right? The ecclesiasticus is cool. If you're getting together and you're studying and that's in fact, that's what we're doing right now. This would be considered an ecclesiasticus. The only thing is I didn't sing songs and stuff like that, but I put some music out, some music release today that I did. So there's your songs right there. Jeremiah Rise. Go listen to it. It's on your streaming platforms. So, but this is technically an ecclesiasticus, right? This is what it's supposed to be like. So, and you should like and share, because you're supposed to go to the othermost parts of the earth, not just speak to the same people all over and over, like every single time, right? So I guess that would be, I'm just modernizing it. That would be the like and share, or maybe just the share part, right? But anyway, so let's go to our 3:1, right? We're in our Genesis 3:1. And now we get into, some it starts to get, it starts to get a little racy, as far as the stuff that is getting ready to go down. Okay, so now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord, or Yahuwah, Elohim, had made. And he said unto the woman, yea, hath Elohim said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? Right? So that's our 3:1. Now, the first thing we want to pluck out of this, right? Because this goes again to the study habits and like making an informed decision. A lot of times when you're in an experience with maybe Christian believers, they will speak about Lucifer, Lucifer, that old serpent in the grass. And, preachers, they be doing, and hacking all over the mic, no, Lucifer's something different, right? That it's important to understand that Lucifer's name used to be Christo Lucifer. And when I say used to, I don't mean that the Elohim Most High changed Lucifer's name. The Catholic Church changed Lucifer's name. So when you have references to Lucifer previously, it was Christos, Lucifer, Christos. Now there's Christos. Actually, Christus Lucifer, excuse me, not Christos. Christus Lucifer. But anyway, we'll get into that at another time. And I spoke about Christus a little bit and knowing the difference between Christus and Christos. But Lucifer was not the bad guy initially, right? So we'll get into that. So anyway, so the thing that I want you first to catch is now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which Yahweh Elohim had made. So now what does that mean? That means that the serpent is classified as a beast of the field that Yahweh made, not fell down from somewhere and then took on the form of a serpent and went to go trick it. No, this was just a regular animal that Adon named, and that was supposed to have Adon was supposed to have dominion over. That's all, right? Nothing supernatural here, if you will. But the serpent asks, yea, hath Elohim said? And notice he didn't say hath Yahweh Elohim. So like have they said, have the Elohim said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden. Now, you know, when I used to read this, one of the things I used to think about was this may not have been the first run, right? Because why didn't the serpent say Elohim Yahuwah? Why didn't the serpent call out Yahuwah specifically? Because at this point, all through chapter 2, we get introduced to Yahuwah, right? And then now the serpent just says the Elohim. So it always made me feel like I don't really know who's assigned to this post, but here we go again. So let me do what I do. You know, what I've been programmed to do, because here we go again. And there's little hints to that as we go forward. But anyway, and plus also because how did the serpent already know the rule? You hath Elohim say you shall not eat of every tree of the garden. Like basically saying, oh, did they give you the spiel too? Did they give you the rundown? So that means the serpent heard it before. And remember, like I've told you before, male and female, he created them. A lot of times we look at that when we look at, he created Adon or man. When we say them, we look at the masculine and feminine as plural. So that's why we'll say, oh, that's why it says them and not him. But that's not necessarily true. Adon is a generation. It's not just a singular one person. It's a generation. So male and female created he, them could be like there were 30 Adoms. There were 50, there were 100, there were 1,000, there were 1,000,000, whatever, right? So the serpent could have done this before, right? Let's go to 3:2. And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, right? She said, and remember what I told you before, that eating is a filtering between good and evil. And when you break it down into the Hebrew, eating, it represents taming, like taming something or subduing something is the concept of eating. And it's kind of like Cabins in the Sky. Oh, you brought it back, Cassie Durant. Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, it's similar, but okay, it took me over to the right for a second. But eating is a process of not only filtering, but suppressing the evil and presenting the good. Now, if you think about it, that's kind of like how we might view digestion. I'm going to extract the good minerals and elements that I need, and I'm going to eliminate what I don't need willfully. If my system is working the way that it's supposed to work. What was I? All right. And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. Now, one of the things too is that when you're dealing with the concept of fruit, right? It's important to understand that, the fruit representing the men, or that Hebrew word men, represents a part of something. So when fruit is being referenced, it's saying that the fruit is a part of a larger experience. It's not separated from, just like your children are a part of your family, right? That's really important when you start to learn more things about just how to eat right. A lot of times in the Western sense, we separate, even like vitamins. This one, you need a little bit of this. We don't look at vitamins as a family. Like there's a D family, a B family, a C family. These are families, a family of nutrients that we need, and they work hand in hand, right? Now, the fruit concept is key with family because the word fruit in ancient pictograph is pictured as water, like the symbol of water, and a seed, right? So that's a representation of blood. So the concept there of the fruit, it's something that's used in order to receive. Whenever you see like the blood, you got to think about genetics. And again, we're in the book of Genesis, right? To generate. So the fruit, I'm getting a piece of something, which is a piece of a thought, in order to generate something going forward. That's the concept. Keep that in mind. I'm generating something, right? But it all relates to blood. See, so much of this book is about blood. Adom means blood. Adom, blood. Adoma, the earth, blood. The fruit is referenced as blood. These are the generations of the heaven and the earth. Genesis, genetics. It's all blood, right? So, spoiler alert. But okay, so let's go to 3:3. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, important, Elohim, and now even Eve is like not referencing Yahuwah. Now it's like, oh, the gods. Elohim hath said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch of it, lest ye die. Now I brought this up before. Lest means there's a choice. Okay, in our Hebraic, it's represented by the turning of a face. Lest means I can turn this way or I can turn that way. It's a choice. So lest we die means like a choice, like I might die. It might 50-50. It might go this way, it might go that way, right? Now, our first instance that women do not listen. That's not what was said. But of course, that's why the serpent went to the woman, because I know you don't listen. I know it. I'm talking to you because I know you don't listen. Because the Most High said, if you eat of it, you shall surely die. Eve is like, we shouldn't touch it or we might die. That's not what he said, buddy. So that was you're not effed up. You're not effed up, right? That was the first, like, like we're learning something about the nature here. Now, it's something that's important that I want to deal with for just a second. When you look at, especially in our older texts, when it speaks about that Eve, when the rib was taken out of Adam, and Eve was made, not created, one of the terms that sometimes is used is fashioned, because that word can go either way, right? But I want to give you something for a second that's important. If Adam was asleep and he wakes up and Eve is there, that means that Eve or Hawa had time with the Most High by herself because she was fashioned by the Most High. Now, what does fashion mean, right? Or made? It's like grooming someone. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna really put you up on what it is that you're supposed to be and what it is that you're supposed to do. So you come into the world, or you come into this next experience already fashioned, already ready for action. And I just want to add that I think is very important because they both should be held accountable. I know a lot of times when we teach, we either only hold the woman accountable or we only hold the man accountable, and that's just not appropriate. Though the instructions were given to him, right, and it was his job to disseminate them, she was crafted, she was fashioned, she was made by Yahweh Elohim, right? So there was a relationship that they had, which we see comes out a little bit later. All right, so let's get to, what are we on, 3 or 4? Well, we just did 3, right? But of the fruit of the tree, which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim had said, "You shall not eat of it, excuse me, neither shall ye touch it." Like, don't eat it, don't even touch it, which is an important concept there, the concept of touching. When you touch something, it means also in this context to hit it or to strike something. So when they're saying touch it, they're not just saying like you see the fruit in the tree, like don't grab it to eat. Because I mean, if I eat it, I mean, I don't like, it's bobbing for apples. Am I doing like that? But what they're saying when they say don't touch it, they're saying don't abuse it. So touch it here means to hit or to strike. Very important. I want you to understand that. So for those of you who are wise enough to write notes, I want you to write neither you shall not eat of it or tame it. Eating means to tame, nor shall you abuse it. Okay, that's what's being said. And the serpent, right? Yeah, there we go. Lest you die, or you might die, right? And the serpent, right, which we also know is Nakash, right, which is the name in Hebrew. Very important because Nakash is also related to the word seraphim. But Nakash is supposed to be said, it's with a hiss, the kosh, the sound that it makes, right? And the serpent said unto the woman, "Ye shall not surely die." You won't die, right? Even though the woman said, she didn't say we will surely die. She said we might die. But the serpent is like, look, you're not going to die, right? Which was true to a degree. That was true. So Genesis 3:5, Jennifer. Genesis 3:5. For God, or for Elohim doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and you shall be as Elohim, knowing good and evil. So important, right? That particular line. So let's kind of go through it a little bit, right? A little slower. For Elohim doth know that in the day, or the season, that ye tame, control, put under your yoke thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, right? Because up until this point, you're not seeing. Now, let's go to the eyes again. In the ancient Hebrew, or in the ancient pictograph, this term here for eyes, here we go again, was actually the symbol of an eye. And what do you think? A seed. You notice you keep running into these seeds? Running into these seeds. So when they're saying that your eyes, or when the serpent is saying that your eyes will be open, it's not necessarily your physical eyes. It's saying that the root of your vision, the seed, right? Your divine eye, that's what's being referenced there. Your divine eye will be open. Your divine eye, we call that the pineal or the pineal or the first eye or the third eye or the brow chakra, right? You could call it any of those things, but it's not really any of those things anyway. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter what you call it. You know, don't name stuff and then stomp your foot down. Like, this is what it is. Because at the end of the day, you don't know. Right. So we use the concept here, just like first eye, third eye. We just use that concept so we can understand through our brain. But like, truthfully, when you break down the Hebraic here, when they're talking about your eye will be open, the eye is using, you got to go by the pictograph, right? It's a symbol of an eye and a seed, which actually represents a fountain springing forth. That's really what it's talking about. So it's saying that if you mess with that fruit, it's gonna spring forth. Like, your vision is now gonna spring forth like a fountain, right? I shouldn't even say like a fountain. True vision is a fountain. It's a secretion. True vision. You see. Anthony Clark says they both. I wasn't gonna answer stuff, but I might not even answer it. So I'm just gonna read it. They both were given instructions for the law, right? And both were judged together for disobedience, right? No. Nope. Mm-mm. We'll get into it though, Anthony. Okay. Right. We were on 3:5. So your fountain will spring. And ye shall be as Elohim, knowing good and evil, right? Now, good represents what we use to carry things, right? It's the idea there of good is that good is when something like let's say if I have a bucket and I want to carry water in the bucket and the bucket doesn't leak, then that means it's serving its function, it's serving its purpose, which now generates the formula of love, peace, harmony, and joy. So good is that which functions properly, which now creates an environment for the more pleasurable things of life to come about, right? So, yeah, knowing good and evil, right? And evil is really, it's just when something is not functioning right. Evil is not like wickedness, right? So, you know, if I was called or crafted to be, you know, a sailor, right? I'm crafted to be on the water. Like, this is what I was born for, to sail and to explore. But for whatever reason, you know, I choose to be a boat maker and not a sailor. I, in effect, then are evil. I'm evil at that point because I am not functioning within my divine capacity. I am now at that point dysfunctional. So I would be classified spiritually as being evil. Okay. So evil is when you're not functioning as you're supposed to. If I'm supposed to be a musician and and I get scared and people say, well, you need a backup plan, and you know, music business is hard and this and that and that. And I say, yeah, man, you're right, man. Let me go be an accountant. I'm evil. That's an evil thing to do. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense because, you know, like nowadays, especially, one of the ways that people get out of like addressing sometimes is put in front of them. They use words like abuse to shut things down or bashing, right? So if I say something like, melanin-rich women need to focus more on holistic health and less on social media attention. Somebody, of course, will say, well, not all women. Yeah, obviously. Can you pick up context cues, right? But let's just say if I said that, for instance, right? Some will listen and be like, yeah, that's true. Like, we do need to kind of focus on our health, and social media ain't nothing but a big game that's going to let you down. Yeah, that's good advice, right? I'm saying it out of love. I'm not, trying to make anybody feel bad or anything like that. But there's many who'll be like, oh, you bashing women now. That's not bashing. Bashing technically is when you take something and you use it for something other than what it was intended to be used for, right? So if I take a hammer and I try to use that hammer to paint a wall, I am now bashing the hammer. That's bashing. I'm using it, trying to use it for what it was not intended for, you see, which again can be a measure of abuse. So if I am intended to be or to do a certain thing and I try to squeeze myself into another position, I am bashing or I'm abusing the entity that formed me to be what I was supposed to be. It's like being in the kitchen and going crazy over a meal to really hook up for someone you care about. You put it on the table and they're like, yo, where's the ketchup? Before they even taste it. It was a hot sauce. That would be similar in concept to that. All right. So that's evil. That's evil, but not wicked. It's not wicked. Because you can be evil with the best of intentions sometimes. 3:6. Evil can be good. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food and that it was pleasant to the eyes and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. This is all of it right here. This isn't all of it, but this is a lot of good stuff right here, right? Why did he approach the woman? Because she brought sensuality into the environment when it didn't exist before. It wasn't until we started dealing with the woman that we started talking about things that looked a certain way and was pleasurable to the eye. You see, I was thinking about that yesterday, matter of fact. I was just kind of meditating. I was somewhere, I think I was in a store or something. I don't remember where I was. I don't know. My hours blur sometimes. I might have been in a store, right? And I saw a woman walk by, right? She was walking with her son. And she was attractive, right? Not real attractive, not, over the top or anything like that. But she was attractive to me, because she was walking. Yeah, this was the store. This was Whole Foods. Now it's coming to me. She was walking into the store from the parking lot, and her son was like the parking, the lines where you park. He was pretending like he was balancing on the white lines, right? And the whole time they were walking, she was talking to him, right? So he was saying, whatever little silly thing that little boy said. I couldn't hear, what they were saying, but she was talking to him like she was really explaining something to him, and 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 then you got to do this, you got to do that. And she was attractive, and she had a certain very relaxed way about the way she was walking, where you could tell this is a woman who's in a family. You could feel when a woman's in a family. There's a certain kind of confidence they have. And I was looking at them and just this whole scene play out, and her walking with her son and talking, and he's just happy, probably getting ready to go get some treats or whatever. I'm with mommy, whatever else is going to happen. I don't know for the evening, but and I just started to reflect on how we've been programmed through the eye as men, and I'm saying naturally programmed to really appreciate women, right? And not necessarily because I started to think about it, and I was like, yeah, because I like ugly women too. I was thinking about some ugly women I knew, and I was like, yeah. Sometimes you see an ugly woman, I tear that thing up. It's like, I'll make you make them ugly faces, But there's just different things. You'll see I know some fat women. I'm like, yeah, like I just like women, right? And not in a salacious sense. I've never ever in my life been a skirt chaser or anything like that. So I want you to understand as I'm talking, I'm not saying like, yeah, I just love me the women, bring the women. It's not that type of thing. But I really appreciate, over the years I've learned, as a young man, maybe not so much, but I've learned over the years to appreciate how women express, like to hear a woman's laugh or, just little things women do, the way they walk, the way they laugh, the way they grab things, I think it's cool the care that women put into things sometimes. I love taking off a shirt and tossing it over to a woman. I love doing it. Like if a button is something, I don't feel like it. All you gotta do is and then I'm not in the mood, and they'll sit there like they take that stuff serious. Like, little annoying thing. Oh, here's one. Like when your sweats, sometimes the string, you pull it too much and the string goes inside the sweat, like all the way around to the side, because you didn't tie the end up in a big enough knot so it doesn't go in there. And it's like, oh God, now I got to sit here with a clothespin trying to get that thing to the other side. Here, take them off. Here. And a woman will sit there and needle on. Almost got it. So what? But I like stuff like that, right? Because I've done all of that. I know you have top tier speakers. You got all them boys. We always do just pulling something too hard or whatever. It's like, or our hoodie, the string of the hoodie comes out completely. No, we don't really have that kind of patience, right? Those are some of the things that I admire about women. Hey, my hoodie, I pulled the thing out, the freaking thing. Well, why don't you tie it in a knot? Because it looks stupid when it's tied in a knot. That's why I'm not going to tie it in a knot. And it should just sit there. Hold on, let me get my needle. They love stuff like that, right? That's stuff I like about women, right? I like everything about women that ain't me. I didn't think about that for a second. Everything that ain't me is what I like, So Eve now brings that sensuality into the space, right? She brings, and when I mean sensuality, I don't mean, like she's all dancing with feathers and stuff. And, I'm not saying that. She brings the somatic experience, the touch experience. This is pretty. Ooh, look at that fruit. That tastes good. This looks good. It's now beyond function and it's beyond existence. And now we've expressed thought out into a physical, because it's only through Eve that now Adam begins to experience the material reality. It is through the mother that the material is actually experienced. We'll get into that, right? But this is Eve now brings sexual desire into a space. And sexual desire, as I've said before, through our women, we as men experience the earth. For someone like me, I travel a lot, right? And I experience a lot of different cultures and different people. Just today, I was somewhere and I was having a little bit of difficulty. Something I was doing in my car, something happened. Long story, I ain't gonna get into all of it. And a guy pulls up and he says, "Y'all all right?" It's just me. I roll dolo from state to state. Like I'm here by myself. But that's where I was. That's how they talk. Like, y'all all right? Well, I also say, I's all right. That's like I say in plural, right? So we may experience all kind of different cultures and all kind of ways of doing things, but there's nothing like establishing an economy where you travel. Now, that one may be rough for a lot of women to hear because you're used to very weak, Western-minded males, but establishing an economy means planting a seed, having a child, the places that you travel and love, because it's not until you experience the women of a space that you really understand that space. They do that in movies all the time, and they slip it under there, but you don't really know what you're watching. You'll have a spy or something or whatever, guy's in a foreign country, his first thing he gets is a woman there who starts liking him. Even if the relationship makes no sense, like he could be a soldier and he's holding a certain village, his team is holding a certain village captive. And there will always be some young village girl that just falls in love with the soldier who's actually oppressing his people, right? So that's the science of that. So it's now through Eve that we can now experience the world. We can experience the matter, because as Adam is reflecting the thought principles of the Most High, Eve is reflecting the bodily principles of the Holy Mother. Okay, and this is the other sciences. You know, when they become one flesh. When we read about that earlier in chapter 2, right? And it says, therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. Because what you're talking about is the leaving the father and the mother is the woman now sees the man as the Most High. That is her God now. And the man now experiences the manifestation of his thoughts through the sexual element, through the woman, as he would with the Holy Mother, the manifester. Now he's got his own vagina. You know, he's got his own. So now when a love song plays, he's like, oh, now I got my own vagina. I love on a two-way street. It makes sense to me now, because now I have a portal that I can manifest through, like my father was, and like I was manifested through that particular energy, you know. So now let's get to it. Where are we at? Right. The woman saw that the tree was good for food, right? And then we got into what that particular means. So food represents a vessel. So when you hear food referenced in scripture, especially this one, it's not talking about like, yeah, I had it, it was tasty, it was seasoned just right. And, you know, it's not talking about that. Food is a vessel. So if something is good for food, it means it has the ability to carry a thought, or it has the ability to present to me a thought. This is why a seed is so important in your food, because the seed is what? The thought. So if I eat food and I can say the food is good, that means the message that's inside of this seed was something that established joy, established peace, established prosperity, right? Sometimes we have that experience eating, and we could call it a dopamine high. We could, but there's times you can eat certain things. I know I've seen times where my elders ate certain things and they were like, man, I feel like I'm back home. You know, maybe they're not necessarily from, you know, the area where we're from, because the food that was prepared, it transported them into a certain space. Now we can say, oh, that's because of the somatic experience, but the somatic experience is introduced again through the woman anyway. Right. So it goes back to that. But food is the vessel. I want you to remember that. Food is the vessel. It is what we use to contain, or it's a container of ideas. So food that it was pleasant to the eyes, meaning now desire. It pleases my eyes. It's not there just there because it's good. And the tree to be desired, desire. Desire is an important one, right? Because we don't have desire. But here's the thing. And a tree to be desired to make one wise. Why is that so important? To make one wise. Because why not a tree that's desired so that I can be wise? See, the serpent said, when you eat of this tree, your eyes will be open, right? So if my eyes are open in the instance, that doesn't necessarily correlate with me being made wise. It's like, again, ye shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. Wrong. Wrongly translated. is not the truth shall set you free. The proper translation is the truth shall make you free. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. What is the truth? Well, Yahweh shall say, I'm the truth, the way, and the life. So let's try it again. You shall know the Christ, and the Christ will make you free, not set you free. So you're talking about a process. So let's go back here again. And a tree to be desired. Once you see desire, you know you got a problem. As soon as you see the word desire, desire brings suffering, right? And why would you desire anything when I've given you everything already? Important. Desire to make one. Now we're talking about selfishness. Make one wise, right? See, this is what's happening. They eat of the fruit, and what they realize, or what they come to find out, is that now a process has started. See, the way that Elohim was working with me, I just had to listen, and I would have had wisdom right there on the spot. Or I could say I would have had knowledge. But now when I eat of this fruit, I'm now going through a tree, because we're talking about Kabbalah now, right? I am now going through an actual process. I'm being made wise, as opposed to this experience where I'm given wisdom, I accept it straight up, say that's what it is. Thank you. I'm good. Now we can go to higher thoughts. Nope. Now, because you ate of this fruit, now you got to go through the process. And we're going to get into a little bit of that, right? But just remember, now we're talking process because we use the word made, and make one wise. So even though we both ate of this, now we might have a different response. And it's verification that wisdom is a process, right? Very important, because a lot of times we skip, or we want to skip it, right? Because who wants to go through the process? Somebody will be explaining something to us and will say like, yeah, I understand. No, you don't. Like I always say, you can't understand. You have to do it in order to understand. Like right now, the things I'm teaching you right now, you don't understand them, but you can take on the knowledge of them. And through the knowledge of them, because of the dispensation that we live in, once you get the knowledge, which is the seed, is the fruit. Now, once I have that knowledge, I can go through the process of being made wise, standing on the foundations of what I now know. And then once I go through that, then now I will produce an understanding, right? And the understanding is what? Now I can produce my own tree after its own kind of the seed that came before it. You see? So she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, meaning did tame it, and gave also unto her husband, or her ish, with her, and he did eat. So now he's following after her, even though he was first, right? And here's the more important thing. Unto her husband with her. He was right there the whole time when the serpent was talking. It's a part they never highlight much. He was right there, didn't say anything. A lot of dudes do that, right? They do that. Somebody will come to your house. They don't even know who's at the door. The woman will go answer the door. He's still sitting watching TV. Here's one. I'm going to lose a couple members. Hey, babe, what you doing? I'm listening to Chief Yuya. Why don't you come listen to me? Let's listen with me. Nah, I gotta go run to the store real quick. I'll be back. You woman, you go sit up underneath that man and get instruction from that man. I'm not even gonna make sure that the hedge that I'm supposed to put around us is securely put in place. I'm just gonna give that man straight access to you. And when he has straight access to you, he is now having intercourse with your mind. So he's planting a seed inside of your mind. So now when you start to manifest a certain lifestyle and a certain being, and I'm wondering where it came from, I'll know that somebody else planted a seed. I know I'm going to lose some people. Screw it, man. Got to tell the truth, right? Got to tell the truth. And the eyes of both of them were opened, right? What does that mean again? The eye, that means the fountain sprung forth. The eye is actually the fountain of awareness. It's and both of them, and they knew that they were naked, right? Now, knowing that they were naked, well, let's say, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. Why? What does that mean now? That means I'm now uncomfortable with what I am. I'm uncomfortable with my own thoughts. So what do I want to do with my own thoughts now? I want to hide them. You see, I want to put on a mask. That's essentially what that means. I no longer have the innocence of a child where if I'm hungry, I say I'm hungry. If I got to go to the bathroom, I tell you exactly which one I have to do. Things like that. That's gone now because I'm no longer comfortable with how I was made. So now I'm looking to change and rearrange what the Most High has created. So I sew together some fig leaves. And okay, 3 and 8. And they heard the voice of Yahuwah Elohim. Now we're back to Yahuwah. See, so it's like when you're a parent. I don't know if any of you have ever gone through, but I have. I've probably done this. Or it's just not a parent, like anybody. It's the mind control with Debo. When he be going, I be talking again. It's that, right? So when Yahuwah wasn't there, it was like, oh, they said we can't do this. They said we can't do that. Whoop de whoop de whoop de whoop. But then when Yahuwah comes back, it's like, right? So it's that spookism. Yahuwah was like, look, I ain't no mystery God. So y'all can stop that, right? Let me cut you short. See, so the serpent was speaking mystery God, spookism. Oh, the Elohim, that's they. You know how we like to use the term they? Oh, they about to do this and they about to do that. And then you'll hear me say, who? Who are you talking about? Who's they? Who? Because you're obviously talking about the government. Right? Let's just, but you even too scared to say that. You're talking about the government, the world government, US government. You're talking about who in government is about to do this? Who's the minister of defense? Is that who you're talking about? They're about to do this? Who's doing it? You won't say the name. So the concept here is like Yahuwah shows up on the scene like, yeah, me and you, we know each other. You know what it is. You know who I am. I know who you are. Like you talk in general with the serpent, right? So they heard the voice of Yahuwah Elohim walking in the garden in the cool of the day. What is the cool of the day? That's the evening, right? Now, isn't that interesting that someone is named Eve and Yahuwah comes in the cool of the evening? Yeah, we won't do too much yet. I like this book. I like this book. They did a great job. And they heard the voice of Yahuwah Elohim. Okay. And just so you know, when we're speaking about voice, the translation there is staff, right? So what that is it means that the sun is being gathered. So when they're referring to staff, they're talking about the staff that you use for like sheep, the shepherd staff, and how he like will pull each sheep's, come on, you over here, you over here, you over here, as they're bringing them in, right? So that's what's being taught. That's what the voice actually is. It's not, I go. He's not doing that, right? The voice represents the authority or the order of Yahuwah, because the light is being gathered. The order of Yahuwah is now in this space in the cool of the evening, right? Where was that? All right. And they heard the voice of Yahuwah Elohim walking in the garden, right? So, of course, the walking aspect is it's how can I put it? In that moment, Elohim knew something shifted. That's why they're using the term walking. When when the shepherd walked with the staff, the term walk there means to move lightly, right? Because that usually meant there was some kind of danger. So basically, like, I use it sometimes, but it's an old term, walk softly, carry a big stick. That's where that comes from, right? So if there was danger, let's say, like, if you think there's a fox, or a wolf that's going to try to come in and get you, you would walk soft, you'd have your stick, and you'd be getting ready to hit a wolf or something over the head. So at that moment, Elohim knew, like, something's off. Like, you come in your house and it's like, did I leave that light on? You looking around, you're like, why is something look moved? Why is that closet door open? I didn't leave that closet door open. Elohim knew that the vibe is shifted up in here, that the energy is shifted. Where we at? Okay, walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and Adom and his wife hid themselves from the presence of of Yahweh Elohim amongst the trees of the garden. All right, let's get into that. I shouldn't laugh, man, because we all have done this. So remember, Yahweh Elohim represents the perfect idea or the perfect concept. And in fact, Yahweh Elohim is man in man's perfected state. That's important for you to understand, right? Made in the image and likeness. So when you're dealing with Elohim, you're dealing with man. When man is in a space, when man is fully manifested in what you are supposed to be, you are Yahweh Elohim. So the concept here is that Elohim coming into that space is your deepest divine, most divine thought. And what do? Remember, Adam or Adom was supposed to be the great, or your deepest divine concept. Adom was supposed to be the perfect thought, right? So now when Adom hides and the wife hides himself away from the Elohim, what that is like, some people don't meditate. Now, why don't they meditate? Because whenever I meditate, I get these crazy images and thoughts in my mind. Because that's a divine working something through you, but you don't like that experience. You don't like how it feels, so you just don't meditate. So what Adam and Eve are doing in that moment is not necessarily that they're like hiding behind a tree per se. When Yahuwah's correction is coming, they see the staff, and the correction is like repentance. It's like, yo, get your mind right. So when the opportunity to get your mind right comes, what we tend to do is we're still adjusting to sin, right? So what that essentially means is, like, I'm a fallen person, and I'm in a process right now where I'm trying to be falling down, right? But I'm trying to be that fallen person, right? So, you ever have somebody who's like drinking or doing something, and they're like, man, just leave me alone, man. Let me just do what I'm doing. And in the moment, like, I can't leave you alone. Like, I can't let you stay in this fallen place. I have to snatch you from it, right? Because if I let you stay in this fallen place, you're not going to come back. You see? So when we get into that place where it's like, we've done something incorrectly or done something beneath our moral privilege, the first thing we try to do is to take that particular lifestyle or that way of being and segregate it away from our highest perspective. You have to, when you are looking at the concept of Elohim Yahuwah, you don't want to look at it as something external. Things didn't get external until they ate the fruit. Everything was internal at that point. It wasn't until they ate the fruit that now they're manifesting through seminal fluid. Don't worry, I'm gonna hook you up. Just go for the ride, right? So when Yahuwah comes, that's divine thought coming. That's what that is. That's divine thought. And divine thought is saying, all right, we got a program. In the cool of the evening, I come through and I talk, or I voice, meaning I organize all the light. So now, instead of I'm coming through with my staff, instead of you coming along with the other sheep, you're hiding. You don't want to be organized with the light. Why? Because you realize you're naked. you realize now you can see things about yourself and see things about your woman that you're not comfortable with, and you want to go hide in the dark for a little while to get accommodated or acclimated to what it is that you are now, right? We get that all the time within our new. We get it and then we lose it. People come and go because sometimes people come into our new and their desire is to bring their dysfunction, right? I've had people before who've come in, got into, it's always the women, by the way. I keep it real, but they'll get into a riff with another woman in our new, and this has happened more than once. And then we'll try to move on like nothing happened. Like after cursing people out, hanging up phones on them, this, that, and the third, we have a whole conflict resolution process. And when it's cited, they'll say something like, oh, well, this is how me and my family are. We argue all the time. It's not a big deal. We still love each other, right? That's dysfunctional. Like you come from a dysfunctional family. That's not love, right? So now you're seeking to bring that dysfunction into this environment, and you want us to acclimate around your evil. That's what you want us to do, right? So that's the concept there. When they fell back and they're hiding behind the trees, they're like, we're going to stay in this garden, but we're going to ride dirty. We riding through the garden dirty, right? That was the plan, right? So Elohim, Yahuwah, and I should remind you that the trees are thoughts, but the trees also represent the spine, right? So they represent that which we go to for counsel, or that which is upright. So when they now were foul and stinking, they tried to hide behind the best thoughts or the most moral or upright thoughts. Common, right? That's common. Like just look in the culture community. You see it all day. You see people who, it's so sad, man. My stomach even turns a little bit thinking about it. I came up in an era in the culture community when it was small, right? It was fairly small. It wasn't a lot of us. And we didn't have as much information that as we have access to now, right? I look at some books I paid like $200-300 for back in the days. Like you just download the PDF for free now, or they're on Amazon even, right? But like whatever little bit you could get, you held on to that. It was really important. And there were certain phrases and terms that just meant the world. I remember there was a time, like especially when I had locks, if I saw another brother or sister walking down the street with locks, it was like, peace. One time I was in the supermarket. This was like, it was a 24-hour supermarket. It must have been like, I only used to ever go to the supermarket like 2-3 a.m. because I don't like being I don't like being around a lot of people. So I was passing through real quick, right? And as I was coming out, KRS-One was coming in, right? And I used to always wear culture clothes, right? Every single day. I still wear a lot, but not every day like I used to. So, I got on my mud cloth, locks, probably my hair might have been covered. But no, I feel like, I don't know. But, you could clearly see like there's something underneath there, right? I got on my copper and my crystal, I'm clearly invested in something. He walks in and he does like one of those. He looks at me and he goes, peace, like that. And I'm like, peace, like, but that's how it was back in the days, like, if you saw someone who looked like they were invested in the culture like you were excited to see each other because the vestiture or the garments actually really were a statement. It really did make a statement, right? So now, no, now it doesn't really mean the same thing in that sense. So now there are people who take the concepts, the upright and moral concepts of kente cloth, or of a righteous name, or of locks, or or being natural, or a long skirt, fringes on the garment. Like you could go right through it, your head wrap. And they have a maladjusted, disobedient lifestyle that they hide behind the upright. Those are the trees in the garden. They hide behind those moral and upright trees. But when you peer behind the bush, like they're total dirt bags, like total dirt bags. I remember experiencing that in the Christian church. The short time that I was there, as a musician, I was very fortunate to tour with like a lot of like really top level artists who I was just fortunate, right? But I had been in the streets before that. Like I've been in the streets and after that and kind of during, right? But I have to tell you, the worst things I had ever witnessed or even heard, were in that environment. And, you have to imagine in the streets, in my family, rapists, murderers, drug addicts, bank robbers, armored car robbers, home invasion experts, extortionists, hit women. And I mean hit women, I mean like how you say it, women who were assassins. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more I could list, right? I'm talking about relatives. Like I'm not even, some cats in the street, but but when I went into that environment, that was the first time I ever was close to a pedophile. First time I had ever seen, guy's name was Keith. I can't remember Keith's last name. I don't even have to protect his name. He worked up at Children's Village, Dobbs Ferry, New York. Children's Village is a youth detention, it's just a youth home. I can't remember his name right now. If I call one of my boys, he'll remember his last name. But was giving the children cocaine and then raping them. He was a minister, right? He looked just like Father MC. Well, you guys probably know who that is, but we used to call him Father MC. He had the same haircut, same look, everything. Can't remember his last name. Anybody from the old town, Mount Vernon, would remember. But that's what he was doing, right? I never saw anything like that in the streets, But and these are people, like I said, these were ministers, right? These are people who hid behind God bless you and grace and peace and hey Doc. They used to call each other Doc every 5 minutes. Doc, you was preaching, Doc, and ain't nobody hardly finished high school, but they all doctors, But the worst things I had ever seen were in that environment, and that's just a smidget, right? You think that's the worst story? That's not the worst story. That's not the worst story at all. At all. Matter of fact, something happened recently with someone I know very well killed his ex and her boyfriend, and then stood up in testimony service and told everybody in the church. Cops came in the middle of the service. I've known that man, since 90, 91, something like that. I've known him a long time. Then lost his freaking mind. He'd been in the church all that time. And guess he and his wife had split up or whatever because he was cheating and she wasn't interested in being in that arrangement anymore. And she started messing with somebody, and I think it was a deacon or something like that. And her church, she went to another church, was messing with a deacon in that church. I think she was cheating with, I don't know, they were both cheating on each other. He goes into the guy's house and waits, like lays on the house. When they come in, he kills both of them. This is real morbid. We talking about Genesis, but either way, I don't want to. He killed him, put him in his car, then goes to their church and is sitting in the pew crying And then waits to testimony time, and then stood up and told the whole story. He's in jail today. This just happened like last year. This just happened. So anyway, so that's the concept of them hiding behind the trees, right? They are foul, and they're trying to use their consciousness or the morality that's around them and their thoughts. They're trying to hide their ego behind their consciousness, right? So Yahuwah Elohim called unto Adam and said unto him, where art thou? And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden and I was afraid, right? Because he's coming through with the stick. Like, what's going on? Something's off. And I was afraid because I was naked and I hid myself. Right? Foul. You foul. People who don't know what that is probably just think I'm bugging out. I don't remember what show that was. Long story. My man Billy Bob. Did I tell y'all the name? I think I did tell y'all the name. That's all right. I don't think I slipped. Yeah. I mean, y'all never find him anyway. Yeah. A brother named Billy Bob. That's the first brother I ever met in my life named Billy Bob. Now, Yahuwah Elohim called him to Adam. Why did he call it Adam and not both of them? Important. Oh, I did. Okay, Lo. Yeah, I did say it. Yeah. Yeah, my man Billy with the Bluetooth. No, I don't mean to laugh, because he might see this one day. Yeah, I don't mean to laugh at you, Billy Bob, if you ever see this one day, man. That was just a crazy day. That was a crazy situation, man. You know, I hope you didn't go back to her. Because she clearly had it. She clearly planned that. You know, she planned that joint. Took all his money too. Why did the Elohim call Adam? Because you are the authority in this space, not her. That question was asked earlier. Didn't they both get the law? No, he did. So you got to understand the position of the man, right? The positioning of the man is that he's responsible. You see, so there's a line of authority that comes out. It doesn't matter what she did. I left you in charge. I placed you in this garden, and she comes from you. You see? And like I said earlier, when you read it, she gave the fruit to the man who was with her. He was right there. So the Most High is always going to come to the patriarch and deal with the patriarch, right? It's just not this whole thing where all right, everybody gather around, you know, and that I know some people may not want to hear that because you are kind of tied into this Western concept of like, we're all equal, all the same in God's eye. No, you're not. That's just not what it is. That's not how we were designed. That's just not how the makeup is. We all have a different role that we're set to play. And it's important that you understand that, because the serpent didn't talk to Adam. Because the concept there, remember, the serpent is dealing with the earth. And whereas the heavens and the earths were created, when you read it, we'll go back to it. I'll show you something. And basically, what I'm going to show you is that the Most High Elohim created the heavens and earth from the top down. And it's man's responsibility to create the earth and the heaven from the bottom up. That's the as above, so below. And it says it right in the scripture, but you just got to know how to read it, right? So the serpent is like, you know, I want to usurp. The serpent is looking at Adam like Adam is Yah. So now I want to usurp the position of Yah in the minds of Yah's children. You see, I want to distort the path and pervert the understanding of Yah's children. And who is Yah to the serpent? I mean, Yah to the serpent is Adam. You see? So in that concept, I'm not going to go to Adam because Adam already is filled with knowledge. Just like when someone wants to pervert your understanding your connection with the universe, they don't go to the universe because they can't. They can't talk to the Most High. What they do is they try to contact the lowest part of you and mess that up. Or they go to your woman, they go to your children, right? They try to get them so far off the path that in hopes that you'll still be connected to your concept of protection, where you'll go off the path along with them in order to keep them safe. So he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, right? And let me give you this too. The garden is where the seeds are gathered, right? So in our ancient pictographs, you have a picture of like a foot and a seed. Notice how you got all these seeds? And what that means is that this is where all the thoughts are gathered. This is where all the seeds are gathered. So when Adam is saying, I heard your voice in the garden, Adam is saying, I heard your voice in my head. That's what Adam is saying. I heard your voice in my head. And I tried to hide myself. Hiding myself means now I'm distancing myself. You see, when we are disobedient to our proper function in what is good, the first thing we want to do is distance ourselves from what is right. We'll even be irritated. We'll get hostile when somebody brings right around us, right? I had a guy I knew years ago. I still know him. I don't know, why am I saying it that way? But I remember the first time we ever really like talked. Like I've known him for years, but we never, a lot of friends in common, that type of shit. Never really talked. We talking about something like that. I can't even remember. It was such a dumb conversation. But he was hanging out with Michael Jordan. Long story, right? So he was talking about something, and then like, I guess because he was having this little brag moment, he turned to me and was like, yeah, you know, because da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, I don't know. I guess I see it a little bit different. And that's literally all I said. And he said, you know, see, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to play mind games. You know, you very intelligent and everything, but you're trying to mess my mind up and turn my mind around. But I know what happened. He started going on, right? So as he's going on, like I just stopped. I said, oh, man, I'm sorry, man. I forgot, man. You're a cokehead. I said it just like that. Like, take it however you want it. Like, I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot you're a cokehead, right? So the point is that he was offended by something that was closer to deification than where he currently was. So the response is going to be hostile in that sense. You see what I mean? So that's the same concept. Like we distance ourselves from truth. And when truth starts to come near, we hide from it. So he's like, man, I'm hiding behind the trees. I'm trying to hide behind righteousness, this, that, so forth, and the third. We try to distance ourselves. Y'all like laughing in the chat. Yeah, he's a cokehead. Yeah. So like when he's sitting there doing that, because see, I'm not the rah-rah type. Like I'm like literally just look at you like, because I don't want to waste my energy on getting riled up. Number one. Because I'm usually thinking about where this might go, right? And the other thing, to keep it a buck with you, I'm not really good at it. Like I got friends that like will, like just be going off. Like my brother, right? He is real good. Like I remember back in the days, man, like when he would beat people up, but before he would beat them up, he would like taunt them. And I remember back in the days, he fought this dude, Ray. And Ray thought he was so tough, man. Oh, Ray, he just the way he used to walk and his afro and everything, he just thought he was like so tough. But I ain't really mess with Ray. I mean, he was all right, but he's the type of dude that like if you say, hey, what's up, Ray, he would just ignore you one day. Maybe say, hey, what's up, little man, the next day. And me, I don't play that. You get one. After that, you're dead to me, right? I don't remember what happened, but I just remember somebody running me was like, yo, your brother's getting ready to beat up Ray. So I was like, what? So I went running down the block, right? And Ray was in his house. And my brother's at the stoop. with like everybody trying to get him to come outside, right? and like he's good at this. Like I'm not. Even now, you can hear him. I'm already like getting ready to start cough. Like I'm not good with all that yelling. You know what I mean? I wasn't made for that. I'm a little bit more mellow. And I remember my brother was like, "Yeah, come on, you a sucker." Da-da-da. He was like, "Yeah, Ray, I got more juice than Tropicana." You know, I was like, "Oh," everybody's like, "Oh, we got more juice than Tropicana." And then he was like, "Yeah, I got more juice than OJ." Yeah. You know what I'm saying? My brother's just going off. You know what I'm saying? He doing all these old school like little riddles and stuff like that, like on the spot and everything. You know what I'm saying? And Ray actually came out. My brother knocked him out, man. He hit him so hard. Ray flew against a telephone pole, and it was crazy. He just slid down the pole. It was bad, man. It was bad. That was a rough night. He hit him so hard. I remember that night. He slid down the pole. My brother was still rapping. You know what I'm saying? But he's good at that. He's more Shango than I am. I'm quiet. I'll just look at you like you know, like to me, because once you start yelling, the fight already we fighting now. If you say something hostile to me, the fight already started. So, you know, I think different, you know, and I think if I tried to be that way like him, I would probably get my behind kicked. So I never tried to be what I'm not. I ain't try to, actually, no, I'm lying. I did try that once. That's when I got my first black eye. I did try that once. I fought this guy, you want to call it a fight. I was 11 and he was 17 and he was 6 feet tall. He was a big 17. And I was a regular 11. Well, I was kind of big for my age, but it was a big difference. And I sold him something, and he didn't give me the money. And then he kind of got slick and was like, "You know what, matter of fact, I ain't giving you nothing." And then I wanted to fight him. And he wouldn't fight me. He's like, "Little boy, get out of here." And I'm like, "Yeah." And I said, "You know what? Your mama." Back then, that was it. And I still thought he wasn't going to fight me. And then I felt this tap on my shoulder. I turned around. Bow! That's a whole long thing. But yeah, the one and last time I tried to talk junk, and I was like, that's not my ministry. That's not for me. You got to know what your calling is, and that's not my calling to talk junk and fight. I can do one or the other. And really just one, because the talk junk thing, I'm too mean. Like I go, like I'm gonna say, "Oh, you're a cokehead. You was a crack baby." Like that's me. I don't know how to do the back and forth thing. My brother's good at that though. He's still good at it. He still be doing them little rhymes and all that, and pacing back and forth. His old school self with a fisherman hat on. Well, anyway, so yeah, man, that's what happened. So then the Most High said, "And who told thee thou wast naked?" So Most High already knew, man. Like, who told you that? Because I didn't tell you that. So where did that thought come from? Because every thought that I have given you up until this moment has been a divine thought. And now someone has implanted shame. Because you were naked all this time. You see, he said, you know, and he said, "Who told thee that thou wast naked?" Now, wast, was like past tense. You were naked, right? Yeah, you were naked, but the thing was, the nakedness again represented, I see man. So when he's saying, "Who said that who told you thou wast naked?" Who told you were a man? Or you want me to help you out a little bit more with that? Who told you were a flawed human? I didn't make you flawed. You're not. What are you talking about? Because you remember, to be naked means to see man. Means to see man. Now, up until that point, we are manifesting through thought. And all of my thoughts are coming from the Most High. All of my thoughts are pure. So all I'm really seeing is respect. Respect means to see the source, or to see Ra, or to see Ray, to see the beginning, or to look again, to see again. So whenever Adam is seeing Hawa and Hawa is seeing Adam, it's all respect, because all we're seeing in each other is divine potential or thought, slowly, possibly becoming becoming concept. But now that we see we are naked, we are seeing humanity in each other, and we have an issue with that, right? So the Most High says, who told thee thou wast naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee thou shouldest not eat? I'm sorry I'm laughing, man, but it's just, this is the type of way, like, my pops would ask something, and he's gonna beat you. I know the beating's coming, but he would like toy with his food first. Well, did you? I guess I kind of used to do the same thing to my children. Like, I am going to hit you, but let's just see how hard I'm going to hit you based on how much you're going to lie. I'm made in the image and likeness. And the man said, the woman whom thou gavest to me, to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat, right? So now, what are we speaking about here? She gave me of the principles. The tree, because notice he said in verse 12, the woman whom thou gavest to be with me. That's also significant. To be with me, meaning like she's down for me. She's supposed to lock in step with me. And also I'm blaming you because you fashioned a woman wrong. It's basically what I'm saying, right? Which gives you an understanding of the nature of a failed male. Just like the nature of a failed woman, she doesn't listen. The nature of a failed male is a lack of accountability. Whatever happens, it ain't my fault. It ain't my fault. And because the male is the dominant principle on the planet, now you have that same energy throughout on the planet with women. Women can do no wrong, right? They'll flip out and go crazy if you say, maybe this was your fault. You saying that I did something wrong? It was me? Yeah, like, are you perfect? You don't do anything wrong? Well, they got that spirit from the man, right? You remember, the man is the dominant, so whatever the man is doing, eventually she's going to do. You see? That's why it's important sometimes, and I'm not saying don't hold women accountable, but definitely before you start thinking that something is just a part of her nature, search yourself for it first. And I'm not saying that, they're all, what was it, cinnamon and spice and everything nice, and we're all the bad. I'm not saying that at all, because everyone has the potential to be an asshole. A man could be an asshole. A woman could be an asshole. Western culture will tell you that it's just men and all that, but that there's a more sinister plan in that, much more sinister plan to disempower the family in order to conquer people, right? So everyone could be an asshole. I know some asses who are females, not some jackasses who are males, right? But the point is, you always want to look first and say, and looking like, is this a germ that I passed over, to this individual or to this woman in that sense? So, right, the woman that thou gavest to be with me. Now, notice that Adom says she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. Why doesn't Adom say she gave me the fruit, and I did eat? Why is it the tree and not the fruit, right? Well, because the fruit is a concept that is birthed and brought forth by the exploration of the thought of the tree. Now, what is the thought of the tree? It's a lot of things, but one of the things it is the full release and expression of seminal fluid, or as some people would call orgasm, right? So we can think about it, we can consider it, but now when you give me of this tree and I eat it, this now becomes ingrained inside of my psyche. Like, for instance, going to a bar, right? I don't go to bars, right? But let's just say somebody says, hey man, let's go hang out at the bar. Let's go have a drink, right? And I go have a drink with the person. That's the fruit. But now that drink and that experience is connected to a thought, to an idea, right? I go to the bar to unwind. I'm arguing with my woman. I go to the bar, whatever it is, right? Now, if I begin to partake of that tree, I am now infusing that thought into my own psyche beyond just experiencing the fruit. So if I see the possibility of orgasm and I rock out when I don't need to, because remember, when the Most High is saying, I will give your seed these lands, you know, this land here, that land here, the Euphrates, Ethiopia, Kush will be, I will give these unto your seed. A lot of times we're thinking like my descendants will rule over these geographic locations. That's not what it's saying. The seeds themselves, the land themselves are a formula. So when the Most High is saying, I will give these to your seed, it's saying that the fluid, the seed that you are able to generate through your sexual energy, which is the Holy Mother, the Holy Spirit is sexual energy. When you generate these fluids, now the perfected concepts that each of these locations represent will now be at your disposal. And you can choose to eliminate it from yourself and lose the land, or you can retain it. Oh man, I'm sorry. I know that was probably loud. Or you can use, let me close. I guess maybe I have my email up. Yeah, my apologies if that was like loud in your ears. Or you can use those same fluids to now create. Because remember, there's an internal creation and then there's an external creation. There's a heaven, there's an earth, there's an Adom, there's a Hawa, right? So we are creating, internally to now express externally. But when you are using the pure thought form and direction from the Most High, you don't have to do that. See, that was the whole thing of the fall. The fall wasn't like you did something I didn't like, beat it. It wasn't that. It was you fell away from me, from proximity with me. Proximity with me means that now every thought that I put inside of you is a thought that's good for manifestation. But when you fall away, now you eat of the fruit and you will be made wise. You're made wise through what? Through the cycles of using seminal fluid. We'll get into it. Don't worry. And Yahweh Elohim said unto the woman, right? What is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, the serpent beguiled me and I did eat. Right? Now, beguiled, we usually look at it like, I lied, right? I lied to you, or I used technology where I told you a truth, but it was a truth that, was mixed with a falsehood to lead you into a certain direction, right? But the term beguiled here can either mean, to deceive, but it can also mean to put into debt. To put into debt, right? Now think about this for a second. I just gave you the example of the seminal fluid, the serpent. How is it that the serpent would be able to put Hawa into debt? Matter of fact, I'm not going to say it yet. I want to see you tell me in the chat. Let me see if you geniuses can come up with something. Yeah, if you can come up with something. I'm gonna keep going and then I'm gonna see but I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna see what you got. So that's in 13. I'm gonna move to 14. Let's see what you got from 13. And Yahweh Elohim said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly thou shalt go, and thus shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. Well, what does that mean to go upon your belly? Now that everything you do, you got to do by intuition. Because you're going to be connected. If I'm moving on my belly my entire life, what is it that I don't feel? There was a time, train robbers, they want to rob a train. What do? They put their ear to the track, right? Or like we say, I got my ear to the street. So now what if you just travel all the time? Your ear was always on the street or always on the track. Now you're in tune with every vibration of what's happening all around you. Okay. Sham the Joy says, I guess we're talking about the debt. Through the process now that has to be taken to be made wise. But why would she be in debt to the serpent? Ipako Bahama says she would have to repay the same, the tree and fruit. All right, we got 2 answers so far. Right, I'm not going to say they're right or wrong. We just got 2 answers. And verse 15, and I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed, here we go, and her seed, and it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. So very important. The enmity represents a separation of houses, right? So when we say, and I will put enmity, because enmity between thee and the woman, meaning that you two will be in different houses, meaning that there's a strength, there's a strong barrier that will keep you two separated. Okay. And between your seed and her seed, well, consider later what happens with Cain or Cain and Habel, right? It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. When we get into Cain and Habel, you'll understand what this means more. We'll circle back. What else we got? Brother Antonio says he had input something into her, and now she had to produce based on what she received from him. Exactly. That was the debt. So basically, Eve was like, that's my baby daddy. That's what she was saying to Yahweh Elohim when he's like, what did you do? Think about it. It's like a father saying to a daughter, like the daughter sitting there, you come home and you go to the dining room table, and your wife and your daughter at the table, like, and your daughter's crying and looking up at you. You already know what it is. You know what happened. Like all us fathers, like we know, what are we gonna say? What did you go out there and do? What did you do? What did you say? I went in there, he got on top of me and did his business, and now I'm knocked up. That's how I was saying. I got knocked up. So that's why the Most High now starts talking about seeds. You see, unto the woman, he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow. I will greatly multiply thy sorrow. Now, I want you to understand that the only person who was cursed here was the serpent, right? Adam and Hawa were not cursed. It's very important. So to multiply thy sorrow doesn't necessarily mean that the woman herself will be more sorrowful. It means that throughout her generations there will be sorrow. Okay. And thy conception. Now, it's important. A lot of times, for some reason, I don't know why, but people read it like this. Unto the woman, he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow in thy conception. It doesn't say in thy conception. It says, and thy conception. So what does that mean? I will greatly multiply thy sorrow. That's one thought. And I will greatly multiply thy conception. That's the second thought. It doesn't mean that conceiving children is something that's not still pleasurable. Conception, you're still going to enjoy conception, right? In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband; he shall rule over thee. Now this was a safeguard, right? The last part, and thy desire shall be to thy husband; he shall rule over thee. Because at this point, it's very clear that Adam's desire is for her, and desire means intention. So it means like whatever you want, whatever you like, right? That's what it means. So my desire is whatever my husband wants is what I desire. You see? Now, why is this necessary? Because it has to be a check and balance, because the Most High in that moment is recognizing that orgasm is more important to this guy than even my word. He will throw his whole religion away to have sex. Or to be with a particular woman who he's just extremely sexually excited by. He will throw the commandments and the laws right out the window. That's how powerful her sexual energy is, because she is the Holy Mother. Remember, when they become one flesh, he leaves his mother and she leaves her father. So now the jurisdiction and the power that the Holy Mother, or who you call the Holy Spirit, once had over Adam, Eve now has over him, because she is now the creative sexual principle in his life. And the whole that the Most High Father had over her, he now has over her. This is why he addressed him, or Elohim addressed him. It was like, what happened? Because you're supposed to watch over her the same way I watch over you. That was now the deal. What happened here? Okay. Like, because think about it. Elohim knew who ate what. He could have went right to the woman and been like, yo, what did you do? Why'd you do this? Sidestepped the female, went to him. Elohim didn't even go to the serpent. Because why? The serpent's going to do what a serpent does. I'm not going over there. Elohim went to, hey, you're responsible for all. You're responsible for the serpent, and you're responsible for the woman. I gave you dominion over both of them, you see. So anyway, and unto Adam, he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, thou hast hearkened. Now, hearken is not just to hear, even though you see the word hear, if you spell it in hearken, it means to not only hear something, but then to comply to it, right? So you think about that, there are other instances where a man hearkened to the voice of his woman, or the Most High said, yeah, you should do that. But those are instances where the Most High said something to the woman to tell to the man, not just because her opinion matters. Now, I'm going to not infuse too much of the right teaching outside of this word. No, F that. Your opinion doesn't matter unless you're asked for it. Yeah, I'm not in the mood. So you get a lot of that again in the culture community. Well, I got something to say. Say it to somebody else. I want to hear that. Go say that to another woman. Go say that to a junior woman. You have to learn the hierarchy of things, because when you don't respect the hierarchy, everything gets destroyed. And if Adam was on his dean, he would have been like, he would have smacked the fruit out of her hand. What are you doing? You can't touch that, because we can't eat it and we can't touch it. Eating means what? To tame and to separate the evil from the good. Touch means to abuse. So how could they abuse the fruit? Well, if the fruit was the orgasmic experience, now let's think about this for a second. Do we commonly see people who abuse sex? And I don't mean sex abuse in terms of, molestation or rape and violating another person, but I mean abuse the function of the seminal fluid. if the seminal fluid is represented by the 4 rivers, and those 4 rivers are what you pull together in order to manifest things in life, and you decide to pull the rivers together for whatever reason, and then release them into a prophylactic or into an anus, right? Or just release them, period, right? Now, yeah, you may do that every so once in a while, let the, release some pressure from the dam, but ultimately that it's not made for you to abuse. So that's the concept of touching the fruit. And unto Adam he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice, meaning because you have served her word, you have made her the authority of thy wife, and has eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake. Now, why did the ground get cursed? The ground, I had nothing to do with this. This bitch, I mean, this person, they went and did that. I had nothing to do with that. Why are you pulling me into this, right? Because the innocent always pay for the crimes of the guilty. It's just how it goes. Thou shalt not eat it. Curses the ground for thy sake, and sorrow. I'm sorry, I got notifications here. Thou shalt not curse the ground for thy sake, and sorrow. Sorrow. I'm thinking of a drink. and sorrow, or rather in pain, in toil, in work, you shall eat of it all the days of thy life. So what that means now is, this is not a curse. You might be reading this as like, oh, you messed up, and now this is not what this is. This is the Most High just saying, this is what's going to happen now because you ate of the fruit. Not because I'm upset and I'm going to make this happen to you now. But whereas wisdom was yours like that, and you decided to eat of the fruit, now you got to get it from the mud, literally. So when he's saying that, thou shalt not eat of it, when he say, and for the ground for thy sake, and then thou shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. He's saying, remember, eating is that taming of what? Of the fruit. What is the fruit? The trees, they're the thoughts, morality, wisdom. So now the wisdom that's going to come to you is going to come to you through pain, through suffering. That's how you're going to learn now. Instead of getting it the easy way that I was giving it to you, and if you would have been obedient to what I was getting you, you would have got it the simple way, the easy way. Now you got to get it from tilling the ground. You have to go back from the material you were made out of, and start from the bottom again and build up your reality and your understanding that way, which is much harder. That's what the Most High was saying. Thorns, also thistles, shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. Now you think about it, right? What does that do? You might read that and be like, all right, thorns and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. Like, why? I got to eat that anyway, right? No. What that's saying is that you're going to acquire and bring things into your experience that are going to look good, but they're actually going to entrap you. Herbs in this sense represents those things that shine, right? So when he says thorns and also thistles shall it bring forth to thee, right? So those are the obvious things that you would see, right? Like you're going to see thorns and thistles, excuse me. And herbs is eseb in our Hebrew. Eseb. Eseb means to glisten, like dew would on glass. I mean grass, right? And the dawning dew, how it glistens like water in sunlight. So it's shiny, it looks good. So and thou shalt eat or tame the glistens of the field. In this instance, when we're talking about field, we're not talking about like just what you farm. We're talking about the word salde. And salde means that which is spread out like a lock. So that means like the thing, it's like a trap. It's you could look at it like a trap, right? Something that you step in and it catches your foot, right? But it's spread out over a distance. So the things that look good are going to trap you now, because I was giving you the wisdom, I was giving you the science, and now you're going to be tricked and fooled by the eye, by what you see. And what you see is going to be what hems you up, you see. In the sweat of thy face, I'm going to go because for the sake of time, I'm not going to break every little thing down. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground. For out of it wast thou taken, for dust thou art. Like he's just getting them. For dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. See, now that was him saying, you just killed yourself. You just killed yourself. You see, like, because you did not see your human frailty and you only saw divine thought, once you recognize you were naked, you recognize that you were made of garbage. You were made of dust. And now you wanted to hide yourself away from the best parts. And you thought that that could sit inside of the divine mind of the garden. But now you're going to end up having to return to that now because of the journey that you decided to go on now. Now cycles. You didn't have a cycle before. Now you have cycles, right? And notice there's a lot of reference, by the way, to eating, right? How you will eat and things like that, because the concept there is the eating. It kind of represents, again, your ability to discern left from right, good from evil, right? The tree of good and evil. Like now you can discern this from that. And that comes through your interaction with the masculine and the feminine. I can think, I can feel, I can see this over there. So now I can have a conversation with the serpent. So whereas Adam was having a conversation with Yahuwah, Eve, which is heaven, Eve is having a conversation with the serpent, which is earth. You see, now there's a distinction between two. So whereas Yahuwah is like, I finished my work already. I built from up here down. Now you're going to go to you're going to go to Malkuth, because see, Malkuth did not exist until the fall. There was no Malkuth. Malkuth came as a result of them utilizing the seminal fluid, of them utilizing orgasm. Now, once orgasm was utilized, and now a new creation came that was purely of material and earth. Now on the Sephiroth, on the tree of life, now we have Malkuth, okay, which is the kingdom or earth, right? So now he's like, yo, you're from the dust of the earth, like, and the dust is where you're going to return to, because now you've created, whereas I gave you a garden, I gave you a home, you two have now created your own home called earth now, called Malkuth. You got to go over there now. That's where you work, and you got to work, you got to get it from the mud. And Adam called his wife's name Eve because she was the mother of all living. So there's so much. There's so much in that, by the way. But that's Chava. Chava, when you hear me say Chava. Chava, that which gives life, right? Now, why is Eve now that which gives life? Because I have now cleaved to her through orgasm, and whereas the Holy Mother or the Holy Spirit was the light, the giver of life, now it's this woman. Just like there's a time when you're a young child, you see your mother pregnant, you see her as the giver of life, until you get a woman pregnant, and then you're like, oh, okay, you know. And of course, we know women are not the givers of life. That's actually a misinterpretation. They're the producers of life. Okay. Unto Adam also and to his wife did Yahweh Elohim make coats of skins and clothed them. Now you understand that, right? There was a sacrifice. That was a foreshadowing. I got to kill these animals to clothe you fools because you did something foul, and now an innocent animal has to suffer because of your foulness. That was a foreshadowing, right? But it just tells you how things go. The innocent always suffer because of the guilty. And Yahuwah, and that's important to understand too, because sometimes you read this and you looking for the happy ending. You know, it's like when you watch a sitcom, it's like within 28 minutes, they go through all these changes and tie it all up. That ain't this. This is just how the universe works. Like, may be cool, may not be cool, but this is it. Because there's the other real sexy part about all of this, right? If we were made in the image and the likeness of the Elohim, and we allowed ourselves to be beguiled by a serpent, and had to now experience life outside of the garden, isn't that the exact same thing that the Elohim would have done? Because if we're made in their image and likeness, we're behaving just like they would behave. So, it's almost like when you do something and your parents like, where'd you get that from? And then you talk to a grandparent or uncle or something, they're like, oh man, your mama did the same thing when she was your age. Or your daddy was the same way. I used to get them about the same thing. You see? So it's not, don't just look for the happy ending. Look for the science, right? So if the Elohim knows, like, our nature is to expand and to explore and to go beyond the circumference of what is, whatever we create is going to have that same sort of nature. They're going to want to go beyond their cage of flesh. 23. Therefore, Yahuwah Elohim sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. Now, again, till represents to serve. Now you have to pay service to the ground, you see, because you're over it now. So whatever you're over, you have to serve. You're over Eve, because he could have been like, yo, Eve, beat it, man. You messed the whole jive up, man. Messing around with you. I could have just take another rib, get rid of this one, give me another rib, whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop, let's do it. But remember, Adom is a generation, not one individual. Just like there were many Christs. There was a bunch around that time. Another time. I know y'all not ready for that one. But Adom was a generation. So this was the nature of men at that time. Not one guy did this and like, oh, you screwed up. No, y'all all doing this. Everybody get out. So 3:24 says, so he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. Right? Very important thing, right? I skipped. I'm sorry. I skipped a very important. I was like, yeah, what? I'm sorry. 22 is very important. And Yahuwah Elohim said, behold, the man is become as one of us to know good and evil. Now, lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. It's so sad the way they don't tell you things in church. I didn't grow up in church, but I know they don't teach you anything there really, most churches. There's so much wisdom right here that they just skip over this part. Behold, the man has become as one of us. What is that? Is he one of us now because now he has to reproduce through sex? Or he finds out he can reproduce through sex? Is that why he's one of us? Is he one of us because he has now explored beyond obedience? Are we disobedient gods? And now he's disobedient like us? And now he might put forth his hand. He might put forth his hand. Very important. Hand, of course, is Yud. And the concept there is that the hand is what we utilize, if you will, to send energy outwards. And what I mean by that is not like I grab something, but I mean we can shoot energy with our hands, right? So that's what's being said there. He might put forth his hand and take, and take. You got that, right? Take also the tree of life and eat and live forever, right? So why was that such a big deal? Because now that man has this distinction between good and evil, whereas when I was implanting divine, or we were implanting divine thoughts into man, whatever man would put forth was good. Man had no other options or choice but to send goodness outwards, because everything that was functioning was a seed from us. But now that man has a choice between abuse and right usage, we have to stop the line, because man may accommodate itself inside of wrong usage, inside of evil, and stretch out its hand towards the tree of life. And the tree of life is an indifferent energy. So if I decide to choose evil, I will just extend evil forever. If I choose good, I could have just chosen good forever. So that's why it says in that, remember I told you about less. Less means to turn the face. It's a maybe thing. So let us know, he become as one of us. Who's us? The council of the deities. Remember I talked about the 70 sons of creation. As one of us to know good and evil, and now lest he put forth his hand, meaning that he might put forth his hand and take also the tree of life and eat and live forever. Therefore the Lord, or Yahweh Elohim, sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. So meaning now that you've, I have to take you out of this pure place of your thoughts, but I will keep it. I'm not going to destroy the garden, but I have to keep it guarded by a cherubim, right? But I'm not going to destroy it. Now, why won't I destroy it? Because it's a part of your brain. It's a part of your mind. So if I destroy this, you'll have nowhere or no way to come back to. You'll have no place to come back through. And a cherubim is also considered to be a chariot. Words are similar. And it's a chariot of Yahuwah. So the concept of a cherubim and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. This flaming sword represents, it's so important, but the flaming sword represents the tongue, or heat rather, right? Now, why is this so significant? Because we're often told that Lucifer spoke to Adam and Eve in the garden. Then we're told that Satan spoke to Adam and Eve in the garden. And we're told that the serpent spoke to Adam and Eve in the garden, right? Lucifer did not come into the picture until just now as the cherubim. Lucifer wasn't there. That was the serpent. That was just some regular neighborhood stuff, right? It wasn't all that deep. It was just they went too far. They abused orgasm. They went too far. Lucifer, what does the name mean? Lucifer is a Latin term. Luce mean light. Fur, coming from furrows, meaning fire. Lucifer, light fire, also meaning that which holds light. Lucifer is a light bearer. That's what Lucifer is. Okay? Satan is the material aspect of Lucifer. So Lucifer would be man, Satan would be woman, because Satan becomes the shadow or the dark part of Lucifer, that which is locked into the material or earthly realm, whereas Lucifer is the fire or that which holds and bears the fire or bears the light. Okay, so Lucifer doesn't come into the picture until we start talking about, and he placed at the east of the garden. East is what? Where you get information, where you get wisdom, where you get knowledge. All the teachers are in the east of the garden, cherubims and a flaming sword. A cherubim is a chariot of Yahweh. So it's almost like, because a lot of times when we talk about the cherubims, we say, oh, the cherubims guarded the entrance. No, it doesn't say that. Placed at the east of the Garden of Eden, cherubims and a flaming sword, which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. To keep the way of the tree of life, which means to not so much to guard, but to watch, so that predators cannot enter in. So what they're speaking about there, there's a reference to shepherding, right? There's a reference to shepherding, or, like how you would shepherd sheep. So the concept there, the flaming sword is the mouth, it's the tongue. So that it's through your words and through your speech that you're able to enter back into Eden. Now, what is Eden? Eden is a state of mind, like heaven is, like Shemayim is. That's why whenever we are taught, it's very evil, but whenever we are taught about heaven as this place in time that occurs after a certain moment, we are driven further away from the garden. That's the problem. Because if we are told that heaven is within, then that means heaven is accessible right now in the moment. But if I tell you that it's something later, I am taking you out of the garden. See, that is a trick of Lucifer. That is a trick of the serpent. And what is the serpent? The serpent is the direct disruptor of divine thoughts, because the serpent's always moving at an angle. The serpent never comes. So you have divine thoughts, you're working on it. The serpent comes along and distracts you. So now what would have manifested as divine does not happen now. That's all, right? So it's just important when you understand it and like you read this part, the different things that were kind of brought out was that the concept there of living forever is how you're going to live together. Are you going to live foolishly forever, or are you going to live through wisdom together? And Lucifer bringing the light bearer, or the one who holds the light through fire, right, is the concept of being one of the first agents of wisdom, right? Like I said, initially, Lucifer was Christus Lucifer. You see, Catholic Church did some very interesting things. Very interesting things. And the more you learn about the Catholic Church, the more you'll learn about who the real serpents are. Because there was a beautiful line of thought that was given to the world by way of the Moors. They were the keepers of certain information. They were heralding the way for a collective consciousness of messiahs. Now, how do we know that? Because they used the symbol of the skull and crossbones. You're not some Moorish symbol, right? It's not Captain Jack Sparrow, even though he was a Moor, But that skull and crossbones, they have it also in the Masonic lodges, and it's supposed to be the head of John the Baptist. That's what it's supposed to symbolize. But it's that concept of hey, I'm showing you how to do this. I'm heralding the way for this information so you can understand and learn how to do this particular thing. And the Catholic Church stepped in like a bunch of serpents and was like, send it this way, send it that way, send it that way. Because those Hebrew Moors were showing you about the metaphysics, the mysticism, and especially showing you that in the beginning, Israel, the Most High sees that Israel keeps the law. So even when Adam was sent out, it wasn't like Adam was never cursed. Eve wasn't cursed. The ground was cursed. The serpent was cursed. And the ground was later restored, after the flood. But the thing is, the Most High was just saying, oh, y'all did that? All right. Well, let me tell you what happens next. Because if they were cursed, why would the Most High then create coverings for them so that they could survive outside of the garden? You would be like, beat it, get lost. Why would the Most High then leave something in place for them to be able to return to the garden? Here's the cherubim, here's the flaming sword. This will keep the way so you know how to get back here. But you're going to have to work your way back now. You're going to have to work your way back to divine thought. Whereas wisdom was given to you instantly, now you have to use the fruit to make you wise. How do I use the fruit to make me wise? It's called sex magic. That's what it's called. It's called sex magic. It's called the golden elixir. You see, that's what we're using now. Now whether we're doing it through sorrow and we're having children and we're having these generations and generations of experiences and mistakes that we're evolving as each generation comes forth, which is a form of, I will greatly multiply your conception and your sorrow, right? We're learning our wisdom that way. Or for some, they retain the fluid and they create the four rivers right there within their own psyche. And in that moment, and even through the use of the flaming sword, right? Which can be referenced as different things because it's not just the tongue, but it could also be referenced as the phallus. Now, yeah, if your phallus is burning, you need to get yourself checked out. All right. That's just a little PSA from Chief Yuya. But, scripturally, we talking about something else. All right. So don't let it burn like Usher. Go get yourself checked out. But yeah, like I said, so we're talking about a fruit or an experience that was abused. And as a result of that abuse, these are the things that happen. So the orgasm wasn't the problem. It was not using it right. It was not using seminal fluid right. That was the actual issue. Okay. So, and it's so much more. I rushed through it because we're 2.5 hours in. So I don't want to keep y'all up all night. Because it is Sabbath and I'm sure you want to rest. And I'll go back and give you some of the as I like to call them, the zingers, the ones you read like, oh, there's a bunch of them in this one. But there's a lot of information here about sex magic. Like I said, I think on the first one that people don't know that it's actually in the book, but it's in there. It's in there. And just understand too, like the flaming sword turning every which way is a representative of the Most High becoming flesh and then becoming spirit, becoming flesh and becoming spirit, it's a reference to cycles. Okay. So there's so much in there. And then that teaches you something about even your breathing and your visualization when you're doing sex magic. Right. And I'm using the term sex magic, but it's really just sex. It's just sex done the right way and not being abused because I'm doing it because of the sight or because it's pleasurable to the taste, meaning it's pleasurable to tame, right? It's not just that, but I'm actually doing it because I'm exploring various thoughts. And those thoughts don't all need to be manifested, right? So the concept there, like there's every tree in this garden you can rock out with it. So I can explore these different thoughts, but I don't actually have to go through the sorrow of seeing them manifest. Oh, that's the tree of murder. Let's go check that one out. But we don't have to murder someone. However, when I'm releasing my semen and I'm exploring the thought or the tree of murder, what am I manifesting? Murder. Now, just so you're clear, I'm not I saw that in the chat, semen retention. So now, like, and you a young dude, man. So you're gonna come across a lot of people who like they rant and rave about semen retention. I'm not one of them. I am one that advocates going off into the abyss. Like there are times when yeah, you should retain, when you should do it, but that whole like you should only release when it comes, time for manifesting children. I'm just not with it. I'm an advocate of take it to the tilt. Release everything if you want. Like go there. There's times to go there and then there's times not to go there, right? But a lot of times people who speak about semen retention are only holding rotten semen in their system. Semen retention, if you are retaining your semen, you already did something wrong, right? Because what happens is that you can generate the fluid and it can start to release through your tract and then you hold it back, right? But it turns rancid. You see, so the moment it becomes that, you've already released it. So you might as well just go for it. So true semen retention is a psychoenergetic experience when you're really doing it right. You're not actually generating physical fluid, if you will. Now, I'm an advocate of utilizing the fluid too, though. It doesn't necessarily, I'm trying to keep this a Genesis 3. That's what I'm talking slow. I don't want to turn it into a sex class. But it doesn't necessarily have to go, into a place that would generate another human being. There are other things that you can do with the fluid, but it's always more powerful when both of your fluids are present, right? Because that's when cognitive thought comes together with emotion. And now you're able to recreate the garden in that space, but it's a whole process to that, man. If you want more information on that now, just hit me up on the side, pause, just send me a message, WhatsApp me or whatever. But yeah, that's just for everybody listening. Like the semen retention crew, you got to know your culture. You got to know your people, because a lot of times people will speak about what we should be doing with sex. And I said that in a video recently, like, people will say, oh, you shouldn't have more than one wife. Like, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. Or even sometimes women will try to tell men, like, what they should do with it. Like, our bodies are not the same. Like, our chemistry is not the same. The way we view sex is different. Like, women will be like, well, I love sex too. This ain't about love. Men need sex. Need. Not because they like you or they love you. Men, it's different for men than it is for women. You may enjoy it, and it may be an emotional, not only emotional, like, I really like this guy, but emotional, like you might be looking for a feeling, or you just like how it makes your body feel and all that. That's cool. I'm not taking that away, but men need sex like they need food. It's different, It's where you get so much masturbation and stuff like that, which is abuse of the fruit. Right, which sends you further out of the garden because you're abusing the orgasm. Your fluids are building up and like, oh, we're getting ready to create something, and it's like, oh, a tissue. Now the garbage can. Didn't see that coming. So that's an abuse, or that's touching the fruit or bashing the fruit, right? But like I said, we all come from different tribes, and I would say when it comes to creation, you can't brush with such broad strokes. Even like when you study some of the Vedic like concepts of sex, I'm just not with a lot of that. Like some of it is like reverse polarities, and it's okay for the man to wear makeup at times and pearls. Nah, not me. not my tribe. Like, if okay, that's what y'all do, like, because you want to reverse the polarity, you be the feminine while she's the masculine. Go right ahead. That's just not something I'm getting. Like, I won't have that experience. I'm okay with not having that experience. It's not the tribe that I come from. I'm just going to keep mastering different ways to dominate. Like, I'm not going to be the recessive and be on all fours and I'm not, that's not my groove, So it's important that you kind of know your cultural center, so that way when you're getting information about retention of this and that, and definitely, all respect and props to him, but Dr. Africa used to, because we used to joke about it, some of his concepts around sex. So I used to be like, I'm not getting what you're saying, Doc. Like, I ain't with it, because we used to tell you, like, well, you're only supposed to do it when you're gonna procreate. So that means you'd only be having sex once a year. I'm like, yeah, me and you ain't the same, man. You do that. I'm not doing that. And he practiced plurality. A lot of people don't know. I mean, I can say it now, he's not here. But then he just like, the breast, people, well, men just look at the breast because it just reminds them of the buttocks, and the buttocks that's just where feces comes out. So we learned that from the European. Nah, man. So what are we supposed to look at? But that was Dr. Africa's perspective. Like, he just would take the fun out of everything. Like, don't look at the butt, don't look at the breasts. Sex once a year. I am not from that tribe, So it's important that you kind of know how you want to live and how you want to die. If you tell me, well, releasing my semen is a small death, which it is, and I am taking energy away from me. Yes, I am. But you know what? I did that whenever I made a child. Sacrifice. The Most High did that when we were made. There's always a negation of a deity in order to make something lesser. We are a negation of the Elohim. They took something out of themselves, breath, in order to make us. That's breath they could have kept for themselves, right? So does that detract from their longevity? I would think so. But that's just what the experience is. Working out takes years off your life because of the way it breaks your system down. It removes years from your life. Now you'll have a more enhanced and a healthier life while you're here, right? But like I used to always say that, like, if working out was the key to a long life, why don't like athletes live way longer than everybody else? They live the same amount of years as everybody else. They just look better in their casket, But I'm not saying don't work out. But what I'm just saying is that when it comes to all these experiences, even your study of scripture and things like that, don't let people box you in, but use the wisdom that the scriptures and the things share with you. And we are made and born to explore. So there's going to be some exploration. And if you want to retain your semen and that works for you, go ahead. I retain semen very often, but retaining semen is not waiting until it's on its way and it's like, all right, pull it back in. Hold still. Shh, don't say my name. Don't say nothing. Stop moving. You moving. Why you moving? It's not that, right? It's before we even get to that point, or I could be by myself and just having a mental fantasy and allowing that energy to build up, and then now, diverting it to somewhere else. It could also be that. All right, why are you swirling on me? Yeah, So yeah, maybe we'll get into that. I did a whole workshop on that before. I've been meaning to release the audio of it. I've had the audio for a while. I just never shared it, but we're on Genesis. But that's what Genesis 3 is about, man. It's about the seminal fluid, and it's about abusing that experience, and how we distance ourselves from our perfected thinking when we distance ourselves from the discipline or the conviction that thinking brings. And that's where that's where the death comes from. That's when you're hiding from your highest thoughts, which we often do. I know I shouldn't do this, or I don't like driving without the music on because I start thinking too much. You see, that's where those type of things come from. All right. So I don't think there was too many questions. I'm gonna scan real quick. And then we're gonna get out of here. So if there's any questions, just throw them in there before I finish. Is that disobedience evil? I'm sorry, Cassie Derwin. You might not even be with us anymore. I know we've been on for a while. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Sorry about that. Sorry. All right. Melanated parents love to ask rhetorical questions when they're beating you. Every swing is a question that you better not try to answer. Tell me about it. I never did that though. I never really beat my children either. Like they got beat up, but I was never into that. Like I told you, that's too violent for me. Anytime my children were getting it, they knew they were getting ready to get it because I'm very calm. And I always tell them what's going to make them get it before something happens. So we always had a rule, like, don't lie. Like you literally could do anything, just don't lie to me. That was the rule. So something would happen and I say, okay, did you do this? And I would say, listen, you know the rule. Nothing's going to happen. If you tell me the truth, nothing's going to happen. But you'll be accountable. Maybe you'll have to fix it or something, but you will not get a spanking. Did you do this? I didn't. You know we have to do, right? And I would say it just like that, which is probably scarier. We're have to do. And then I used to do this thing. It was probably kind of cruel. I'd be like, okay, what time is it? It's 2:30. All right, I'll be back when the hand on the clock, when it's 3:45, I'll be back to give you a spanking. I'll say it just like that, But I'm not an advocate, man. If you're upset, don't even talk to your children. Wait till you're not upset. Never speak to your children out of anger. And definitely never discipline them out of anger. Always be in control. And not just because it's cruel, but because sometimes your children are tough and they'll do things just to anger you. I've seen children do that before too. They know there's only but certain ways they can get you back. And then when you sitting there like, I work hard all day and I got to come home to that, they're like, I'll take the beating, but I'm getting you too. So what I used to do was spank my children with a smile. Even when I was like, hey, okay, 3:40 is coming up. You're going to get your spanking. I would do it just like that. So they know, like, you ain't bothering me. Okay, those are the answers. Keep it moving. The desire that a man has towards the sexual engagement he can have with a woman is fiercer than the desire that he must listen to the voice of Yah. Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. All right, well, let me stop telling my business. But yeah. Yep. And Yah knew that. Yah was like, ooh, I gotta put something in place here because she will have him go off a cliff. I mean, you see it every day. Look at all the dumb things that guys do for attention from females. And now females do some of those same dumb things for attention from females. The dominant and the recessive. I always wonder why they didn't eat the fruit of the tree of life. Maybe the thought never occurred until after they had their eyes open. They didn't need it. You got to realize that the tree of good and evil was about the tree was a nerve impulse, or the tree was a nervous system, and the fruit was a nerve impulse. So when they ate of the tree of good and evil, it was an experience of. It's just like when I'm teaching, or when anybody's teaching. You ever notice how excited you get sometimes when you're learning? You see that with women on top. Oh, I'm so excited! I'm learning so much. Woo! Learning sends impulses through your nervous system. You see, so whereas before they were getting it with Yahoo was like, don't do that, now go explore. Now with good and evil, it was Shakti and Shiva. It was the consciousness and the destroyer, right? So now it was sending these jolts through the nervous system. So that's where the excitement and the sensuality was. And that push and pull, or that turning every which way, or that turning flesh and then turning spirit, which is a sexual experience. Now that's something that was now going to really hyperstimulate the nervous system. So that's what the tree of good and evil represented. It wasn't just now I know this, I know that. It was the excitement that comes from learning, that the emotion that's associated with learning something through an actual process. Okay. Okay, cool. What would respect of the orgasm be then? Okay, good. Respect to the orgasm would be, this is where we get into like where I said I would explain like the lands, right? So when the Most High said, and I know y'all keep seeing me mess with my nose, it's not because I had any nose candy or anything like that, just to be clear. Sometimes when I'm doing these presentations and stuff, my mustache and so I don't know, I just start itching around here, talking too much. It's actually the vibration of my voice, like vibrating my nose cavity. All right, just to be clear. You know, people like to see things online and they start talking crap. You know what I mean? Chief done fell off. He's on coke. You know, no. So yeah, what would the respect of the orgasm be? The respect of the orgasm is using it to create or using it to claim inheritance, right? So when like the Most High says, I will give your seed this, that, and the third, right? And I'll do a segment on that. You know, what they're talking about or what's being spoken about there is the concept of certain lands. So let's say if the Most High says, I will give unto your seed California, New York, Miami, right? Let's just say, for instance. What's being referenced there is not your children will rule over California, New York, and Miami, is that through your seed, you will be able to claim the concept potential that those places represent. Now, the creation of that potential happens where? In the beginning, the Most High, right? In the mind. So respecting the orgasm is respecting the promises that are associated with your seed. And then when you generate the energy, the psycho energy of that particular seed, you now build something based on those promises. That's the respect of the orgasm, right? Now, does that mean you don't have children? No, I mean, you can still have children. It doesn't mean anything like that. But there is a internal orgasm and there's an external orgasm, right? Like you asking now, so let's, you've probably experienced this, right? Because like I said, men, we need sex. And there's a lot of misconceptions around sex when it comes to men. Like women will say, oh, men just want to hold or put their thing in and whatever, right? A lot of sex is whack, right? We know that as guys. We're not allowed to say that because we're supposed to, when it comes to sex, is always the guys performing and he's the one supposed to have all the performance anxiety. We're never allowed to say like, oh, she was horrible or her thing was so flabby and loose or she stunk or she just laid there, whatever. We can't say things like that, right? I do. I don't care. Like most of what's out here is pretty boring, right? So you may have a physical release, like there's an ejaculation, but there's no actual internal orgasm. Whereas there's times you may be laying with someone, even as a man or a woman, and you have both, right? As a man, like you feel like there's an internal explosion. Like you sometimes as a man, and you young now, so I don't know if you really, but you're in college, but y'all still trying to figure out things. You ain't at the age yet, but sometimes some of you brothers, when you go deaf, y'all know what I'm talking about. You know, like when it gets to that point and you can't hear nothing, and then sometimes like everything will go gray, like you'll lose color in your eyes. You know, you're having that internal. And what's scary is that when you're having that, but you have not ejaculated yet, some of you brothers may have had that experience when it's at that level, right? And you're like, is this love? You don't know what the heck is going on. You're like, do I love this? This is what love. Oh my God, you know, right? So there's that internal orgasm, and then there's the external. But sometimes you don't have the internal one, and the ringing in your ear. Exactly. You can't. You're like, oh my goodness, you know. But sometimes you just have an ejaculation. It's just, all right, peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Yeah, you know. So obviously, it's important to learn the difference. I think, in my opinion, women are a bit more in tune to that concept because, from my understanding, you know, they don't, they don't get to go there as often, you know, as maybe a lot of them would like. So I think women are probably more in tune with not the idea of faking it, but the idea of like really the explosion versus just the seminal, you know, experience where it's just some fluids that were built up, you know. But and some guys never experienced the room spinning thing, or you might get it once in your life because it's so rare, you know. So yeah, you know, there's a difference between the internal creation and the external. And the truth is, when you learn yourself and you're with someone who is in tune, you won't really even want or even need the external so much, because you realize how much energy that you do retain, but you are experiencing even physically all of the same sensation, you know. But again, many are not that concerned, you know, or that connected with another to actually experience something like that. MGC Randy said, I wrote down the representation for Lucifer and the serpent. I think I missed Satan, or was it not given? Excuse me. Satan is the shadow of Lucifer. I said that before, so I may not have said it on this segment, but you know, I may have. I mean, I don't remember, but I know I said it before, so maybe I just skipped it. But Satan is the woman, whereas Lucifer is the man. Satan is Set or Saturn, or who we used to call Kronos, which was a high deity. And Chronos is time, chronology, right? So what does time provide you? Time provides you with a sense of ego. Time allows you to say, this is mine. How do you know it's mine? Because before that's my woman. How do you know it's your woman? Because on this day, she said she was my woman. Time. So time is what establishes the identity. Time is what establishes the id. Time is what establishes the ego. And time is what establishes the material attachments, right? So it's through time. If I put a watch in front of you and then pull it away, it doesn't mean anything to you. But if I say, here, this is yours, even within 5 or 6 seconds, now I have a sense of ownership for a certain amount of time. So that this now becomes my material attachment. The longer I have it, the more attached I become to it, right? So you start to see that how Satan, Chronos, Set, how they tie into there. Now, Satan is where you get the word satisfy. Not only Saturn, but also satisfy. Satisfy or satyr, you know, or satyr is the concept of, again, the material things or the brain, because your brain is what's clocking time. You know, your brain. So like when you say, I want to do something, you know, like let's say you might say, yo, I'm going to be the best producer next year, or whatever, right? Yeah, I know that sounds stupid, but you get what I'm saying. There's a voice that's going to say, yo, you've been at this for this amount of years and you ain't the best yet. So you obviously ain't going to be the best. You see? So, or even with me, I may do certain things and might be like, man, I want to take it to this level. I want to do this. I want to do that. And there's a voice that will say, oh man, if you wanted to do that, you should have started it this thing. You had, remember you had the opportunity to do it this year, but you didn't do it. You better go think about something else. That's Satan. That's Satan in the brain talking. You see, or Set. And that's not necessarily an evil thing. There's a reason that you need Set. You remember there was a time when Set was the high deity. So when you hear about the wars between Set and Osir, or Set and Osiris, as some people say, it's not that the deities are fighting these sons of creation. They're just taking turns at different dispensations. You rock it here. Okay, we're ready now. We're going to go into this new dispensation. My turn. I rock it now. Then I rock it. Like social media. So social media is a deity. Social media is definitely a deity, right? So we might look at a certain thing and be like, well, at one point it was this, but then it was this thing called social media that ruled how people thought and how people dressed and how people talked. And they didn't, you know, even their language, it was a whole new language around social media. You know, that's how it will be studied years from now. So there's like a changing of the guards that happen, if you will. Anu, Antu, Atu, Batu, Bantu people. Antoine equals royal seed of Anu. Peace be to Anu. My people are called by my name. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so that was the Lucifer thing. That was a Lucifer thing. Ages. Yeah. Different things are present, or different archetypes are present at different ages. You know, like when we say the Most High is the same today, yesterday, and forevermore, we're not talking about time as you and I see time. We're talking about the fact that the Most High has no time. So yesterday, today, and forevermore are the same exact thing, because they don't exist within the operation. They live in the upper realms of Shemayim. In the upper realms of Shemayim, they're not subject to gravity. Gravity is what clocks time, right? So if I'm not subject to gravity, every day is the same, right? When you watch The Simpsons on TV, like Bart is still a little boy. South Park, there's still a bunch of children, right? They're not subject. Why? Because those cartoons, they exist within the astral realms. Why do they exist in the astral realms? Because they're from someone's mental plane, they're from someone's imagination, but they never manifest themselves through flesh, through those who have the breath of life, who are subject to gravity, so they don't have to age. But any show you put on TV where you have Tamahu, you know, you have created people, they're subject to gravity, they age. It's, you know, just different ages, different archetypes become necessary at different stages based on the evolution of the thinking of the people, right? And that reflects in innovations and science. Everything is everything. That's why you got to look at everything. You know, when you look at here's a simple one. Right now in Texas, they got 9,000 Haitians that they're detaining under a bridge, and they're saying that they're expecting over 200,000 more to flood into the United States. What does that mean? Everything is everything, right? You think about what does that mean? 9,000 Haitians under a bridge. They're using this bridge as a temporary, I don't want to say it's temporary, they've been there forever. Where it's like it's a whole long thing, but you know, why are they there? What does it mean? What does that represent? Right? Everything is connected. Everything is everything. When you see different, you look at the presidential regime. Like I said earlier, we don't really have any leadership in this country. So what does that mean? Everything is everything. How does that reflect to my internal? What's the spiritual story there, where the government it's not clear on what's happening, although there seems to be this hidden hand that's clearly pushing an agenda, but I'm not hearing direct words out of the people who I think they should be said out of. What does that mean? You know, everything is everything. All right, so I'm gonna head on out. All right, we've been here for 3 hours, and that's enough. Well, yeah. Thank you for being present, and willfully you learned something about the 3rd chapter of Genesis and got some things that you can work with and move forward with. And definitely check out Yisrael. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about my brother's name here. His brother Yahuda. But definitely check out Jeremiah Rise. It's a music project. It's just a little short EP. It's not like you can listen to it while you frying up your eggs, whatever. But yeah, man, check it out. Enjoy it, listen to it, and just share it with me, right? You thought I was going to say something else, right? But yeah, just share that experience with me, that musical experience. It's on all streaming platforms. You can check it out. All right. Jeremiah Rise, or just look for my name. You'll see it. All right. So yeah, man. So everyone enjoy your evening, enjoy your Sabbath. In all that you are teaching, do you follow the prophecy of Anu's work? No, Yahuda. I do not follow the prophecy of Anu's work because Anu is not actually the Most High. No, Anu is a destination, if you will. So no, and I would never follow a prophecy. I would never follow a prophecy. I watch to see if a prophecy unfolds, but I don't need to follow a prophecy. If it's a prophecy, you can do about it anyway. If it's a prophecy, unless you're saying follow the prophecy as far as watch it, I don't really even do that. If it's a prophecy, I just see where I fall in it, and I study my history, and that's that. Do nothing else. All right. So everyone, enjoy your evening, enjoy your Sabbath. All right, and be well and be safe and continue to be strong. And I will see you in I guess some hours to come. All right, in daytime. All right, everyone. Shalom.